Eat you, and I will ascend to heaven. Eat you, and I will ascend to heaven. A roar was crazily pulled down from the narrow mountain passage, and simply could not control his own body. Ah-ha, ha, ah-ha, ha. Strange sounds of laughter rang out as the chains began to twist. After leaving the broken sky cliff, Long Fei's cultivation had recovered, but he was still able to. The power of an ethereal opening cultivator was completely useless. Under the immense tugging force, his strength was as weak as an ant. In the end, Long Fei gave up. He gathered his strength in his right palm and waited for an attack. Walala! 10 minutes later, bam! Long Fei heavily landed inside a cave. The cave was incredibly hot, and the ground was emitting an extremely pungent smell that was difficult to endure. White flames spewed out from the cracks, and at the very instant that Long Fei landed, hua-la-la, a burst of intense sounds of chains being pulled rang out, and in an instant, a huge steel ball rolled to Long Fei's side. The metal ball was covered in all kinds of strange runes. It was incomparably ancient. At the top of the metal ball was a head with shining scalp, sparse long hair on both sides of its head, eyebrows reaching into the sky, and a beard like steel needles. A fiery light shone in his eyes. He stared at Long Fei, his throat rolling. I smell the pure blood vein in your veins, the power of the supreme blood vein. Great meal? Ha ha ha. A super big meal. As long as I eat you up, no one will be able to trap me here anymore. Ha ha ha. While they were talking, Strange Old Man laughed crazily again. The steel ball rolled and directly rolled in front of Long Fei, staring at him. His distance from Long Fei was only 10 centimeters. At this moment, Buddha palm technique. He gathered all his strength and struck out with his full strength, slashing out with his palm. It directly landed on the strange old man's head. Rumble! When the power was released at close range, the power of the Buddha palm technique was completely released. Even if the power did not die, it could still cause quite a bit of damage. However, as the palm smashed down, Long Fei did not stop at all. While he's sick, take his life. He clenched his hand into a fist and punched forward. Bang, bang, bang. Consecutive critical strikes. He also took out the weapon that burst out from Yi Shilua's body and slashed down heavily. No matter how strong the force was, he would still use it to smash at Strange Old Man's head. However, it was useless. No pain, no pain. It's not as strong as scratching with my hand. Use a bit more strength. Use a bit more strength. Quick, quick, quick. Ha ha ha. Good luck. Kid, is that all you have? Haven't you eaten? Why did those scum of the Xian Pavilion lock you up there? There's no reason. F***CK. So boring. The strange old man kept on talking, and his face was filled with enjoyment, as if his scalp was going to itch and Long Fei was going to tickle him. No damage was dealt. Every time he made a move, it would be muss. The series of letters in English made Long Fei's scalp tingle. Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Long Fei was a little out of breath. He looked at Strange Old Man's satisfied expression and said, "Your sister." Strange Old Man laughed and said, "This old man has no sister. This old man has a monster sister. Do you want her?" Long Fei. In his hand, he held a sword that Yi Shilua had revealed and slashed down fiercely. The things that came from Yi Shilua's body were naturally not ordinary goods. Clang. However, it broke apart. Strange Old Man laughed out loud. He rolled the iron ball onto the short sword and directly bit into it. He chewed it and said, "Delicious, delicious." Anything else? In his mouth, the broken sword was like a piece of meat, dripping with saliva as he ate, as if he had been eaten for several lifetimes. In addition, the broken sword quickly melted into liquid in his mouth. Gudon! He swallowed it all in one gulp. Delicious, delicious! Is there anything else? If not, I'll eat you. While they were talking, strange old man's saliva was dripping down even more, and he was completely unable to stop it. While he was devouring the broken sword, Long Fei had been constantly searching for the strange old man's weakness. Other than a head, no legs, and no hands, this fellow also had a groove at the bottom that was locked with a chain. Not far away, there was a pile of chains the size of a small mountain. Distance! Long Fei's heart jumped out 2 words. However, without waiting for him to move, the strange old man gave a weird laugh and said, "Little fellow, don't even think about leaving here. No one here has ever been able to escape. Do you see that over there?" Strange old man looked to the other side. All skeletons. At least 100 people. Long Fei's heart trembled as he quickly analyzed in his mind. His speed and strength had been suppressed, and the cave was not big. The length of the chain was enough to spin a few rounds, so he had no chance of escaping. And then Long Fei smiled slightly and said, "Senior, there's something that we can discuss. Look at how long it's been since you last saw anyone. Now that you've finally seen me alive, don't you want to talk about life and your dreams?" Long Fei tried to stall the strange old man. It was more important for him to keep his life right now. The strange old man laughed mischievously. "What life and dream? I only want to know one thing now. Do you want to eat your feet first, or eat your head first?" Gudon! As he spoke, he forcefully swallowed his saliva. "Damn you!" Long Fei cursed in his heart once again. This old man's name is Tao Tai. This old man's name is Tao Tai. As soon as strange old man finished speaking, Long Fei glared at him. Tao Tai? Tao Tai. A Tao Tai that swallows the heavens and the earth. Long Fei was a little stupefied and muttered, "No, the Tao Tai should be a divine beast. It shouldn't be a human." Strange old man was secretly shocked when he heard Long Fei and said, "Heaven devouring, heaven and earth devour everything." These words are very comfortable to hear. "Kid, it seems like you know about me." My ancestor was indeed a divine beast. He can be said to be the #1 beast of the wild universe, a super almighty powerhouse who could swallow the heavens, the earth, and everything else. His eyes were blazing. As he spoke of his ancestors, his eyes were filled with even more respect. Long Fei shook and said, "It really is a Tao Tai. Senior, your power is unfathomably strong, an existence that can devour everything. Why are you imprisoned here?" Long Fei continued to flatter her. A Tao Tai was a fierce beast. He would never be able to eat until he was full. However, in the legends of Earth, how powerful was it in this world? I don't know. After all, there were all sorts of monsters in this world. However, the old geezer, Tao Tai, enjoyed Long Fei's flattery, so he became less hostile towards Long Fei and said furiously, "This all starts from 3,000 years ago. It was a moonless night. On that day, he was ambushed by 100 almighty powerhouses. They do not understand the power of my Tao Tai tribe, nor have they seen the brutality of the Tao Tai race. So what if all 100 almighty powerhouses join forces and unleash their most powerful killing moves? Not even a hair on my head. All of them were swallowed by this old man. But the Tao Chi's pupils constricted as a thick inferno flashed in its eyes. This group of treacherous and despicable almighty powerhouse actually planted soul poison in their bodies. After swallowing 10 people in succession, my body started to feel exceptionally hot, like lava. My body felt like it was about to erupt. At that time, I knew that I had been tricked. If the other 90 almighty powerhouses were to join hands and attack, I would not be able to withstand it. But Our Tautai tribe will never retreat. I'll still fight them to the death." The old geezer, Tautai, spoke while spittle flew everywhere. He was brimming with vigor and vitality, as if a battlefield had arrived, and he was bringing down the 100 almighty powerhouse S, sweeping away everything with him. Long Fei pretended to be excited and said, "Senior is truly mighty. What happened to those despicable grandchildren?" "Despicable grandson?" "Yes. They're all a bunch of despicable grandsons." Tautai continued talking. It was like telling a fairy tale. The more powerful he was, the more despicable the enemy would be. To the end. The 100 almighty powerhouse as have all been swallowed by me. So what if we have poison hidden deep inside? Our Tautai tribe has never been afraid of anything. But I completely ignored the poison in their bodies. My body is splitting apart. My body continues to crack. His eyes dimmed. I know that I might be about to die. I fell down from the dark, wild universe and landed on this plane. When I wake up, my body will become this metal ball. Long Fei looked at the iron ball. "Senior, how can a mere iron ball be able to trap you?" Tautai said, "You are right. How can this kind of iron ball trap me?" At that time, I displayed my divine power and wanted to directly swallow this metal ball. However, these iron balls are engraved with all kinds of runes. These runes will transform the iron balls into my own body. How can I consume my body? This is my shame, the shame of the Tautai tribe. I hate those 100 almighty powerhouses, the dregs of the Xian Pavilion. If they didn't presume to control my body, they would not have turned into an iron ball. They want to protect my life and want me to be of use to them. Ha ha ha. They're too self-righteous. The Tautai heavily roared. The entire mountain trembled and rubble tumbled down. Boundless energy bounced off of the mountain. Long Fei could feel an incomparably dense killing intent from his words. How noble was the Tautai tribe! They would rather die in battle than live a life like this. In this cave for 3,000 years, he wouldn't even die. A painful expression appeared in the Taotia's eyes. Long Fei said slightly, "Senior, is there any way to save you?" "As long as I can do it, even if I die, I'll do it with all my might." Long Fei revealed an extremely sincere expression. This was him capturing the Taotai's affability level. He really didn't have the strength. Otherwise, Long Fei would have killed the Taotai and gotten his rank. What a pity! It couldn't even break the Taotia's defense. Elderly Taoti laughed bitterly and said, "There's no other way. My body has been poisoned, and I can only curl myself inside the iron ball. Even if the rune seal on the ball breaks, I have no way of getting out." Long Fei said, "Senior, don't say that. There must be a way." It was best if he could save him. If he couldn't, then this guy would still eat him in the end. Elderly Taoti said, "As long as you have that intention, saving me is impossible. In the past, those who saw me in one breath were all scared to the point that they peed their pants. No one wanted to chat with me like you. They even thought of saving me and leaving. If I meet you in the outside world, I will definitely tell them. Drink it for 3 days and 3 nights. Long Fei forced out 2 tears and said, "Senior, there will always be a way." Tautai saw Long Fei's tears and felt as if his heart had warmed. He said, "Child, don't be sad. The reason I decided to stay in this cave is to wait for a fated person to help me send a message back to the Tautai tribe and tell them that I did not embarrass my ancestors." Hearing that, Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. Long Fei said, "Senior, I'll help you send a message." Elderly Taoti looked at Long Fei and said, "You cannot enter the plane where the Tautai tribe is located. Your body is too weak. The different planes naturally require different amounts of power. Each plane had its own unique law energy. The Tao Tai clan's plane of existence was very high, so Long Fei's current physical body naturally could not enter. Long Fei said, "Don't worry, Senior. This brat will make the best use of his time to cultivate. He will definitely help you bring the letter back to the Tao Tai tribe." Elderly Tauti said, "Even if you can enter my plane, you won't be able to enter the Tao Tai tribe. The Tao Tai tribe can only be found and entered by the Tao Tai blood veins clansmen." Long Fei revealed a silly look and said, "Then what should we do? There must be a way." The elderly Tauti looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, "There is only one way to enter the Tao Tai tribe, and that is to have the Tao Tai blood vein, or the body of a Tao Tai." Long Fei said, "What should we do?" Elderly Tauti thought for a moment, then said, "Kill me." Long Fei said solemnly, "All right, I'll be going now." A palm struck down. This time, it was different from last time. After the defense was put away, a scarlet number appeared above Elderly Tauti's head, 10920. At the same time, the number on top of Elderly Tauti's head also appeared, 100 million HP. Damn! The heck! Long Fei was secretly shocked in his heart. The Elderly Tauti said angrily, "You only have this little power? Use your strongest strength. Otherwise, how long will you be fighting for?" 100 million HP. If he just killed them like that, who knew how long he would have to wait? However, Long Fei could not reveal his joy and killing intent, and said, "Senior, I do not have the heart to do so." Maybe it was because Long Fei had hidden it well. Maybe it was because Elderly Tauti really wanted to die. Elderly Tauti was very pleased. With a light voice, he said, "Brat, I bet everything on you." As soon as he finished, Elderly Tauti suddenly bounced up, and the huge iron ball fiercely collided with the mountain. Rumble! It was also at this time that a long string of numbers floated up above Elderly Tauti's head. Rumble! Another fierce collision. The mountain started to crack, and the broken sky peak continued to emit violent tremors. The entire Xian pavilion began to shake. What is that sound? The loud noise coming from Broken Sky Peak. What's going on? Have you still not caught the two scumbags from Xian's? Xianling Arhitz is too useless, right? Within the illusory palace, the pavilion masters and elders were adapting to the eyeless sensing ability, sensing the violent tremors that were coming from the Broken Sky Peak. The Grand Court was slightly shocked. Could it be that the monster is going to come out? Reporting to Grand Court, Elder Xian, who has gone to Broken Sky Peak. Grand Court bellowed. Could it be that he wants to save him? How preposterous. Where's the Xianling Arhitz? Haven't you caught up yet? The disciple replied, reporting to Grand Court, Xianling Arhitz has already caught up. It's just that there was a loud noise coming from inside Broken Sky Peak a moment ago. Xianling Arhitz is waiting for your order. Grand Court said without any hesitation, "Kill." Yes. The disciple quickly walked out. Grand Court frowned. "No matter what, you have to die today." "And what should we do?" Xian, you looked at the surrounding Xianling Arhitz and elders. The strength of these people were all far above them. Xian, who frowned, he placed the profound jade behind him and said, Don't be afraid. I will stall them later. Think of a way to leave first. Ant will follow shortly." It was impossible to leave under these circumstances. She only wanted to leave the last incense for the Xians. Although Xian, who was heartless, he loved and doted upon all kinds of profound jades. Xian, you looked at the Broken Sky Peak, not far behind her, reluctance in her eyes. Xian, who said, his cultivation is definitely not going to live in the Broken Sky Cliff. He might already be dead. You better not care about him. In the distance, when Xian, who saw a messenger flying back, her heart tensed up. It's here. Grand Court has decreed it. Kill. With that, the Xianling Arhats instantly moved. Xian, who grabbed the profound jade and suddenly pushed it back, saying, "Let's go." He turned around and sent a palm strike towards it. Bam! The palm collided, puffed. Xian, who immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became pale. His entire body flew out. One of the Xianling Arhats rushed towards the black jade, and Xian, who immediately flew over to stop him. Bang, bang. After 2 consecutive palm strikes, Xian, who spat out another mouthful of blood. She was not a match for Xianling Arhats at all. At the same time, rumble, rumble. The broken sky peak continued to emit rumbling sounds. Longfei said, "Senior, you don't need to." He said in his heart, "Use a little more strength." As long as the Taotai died, then it was equal to killing him, and he could also drop something. The most important thing was the Taotia's flesh, invincible fleshly body. As Longfei looked at the gashes on the head of the Taotai, getting smaller and smaller, his heart also became more and more excited. Just a little more, just a little more. See, Happy New Year. How could Longfei show the excitement in his heart? The mountain began to crack, and the cave began to crack. Only a few hundred points of blood remained on elderly Taoti's head. If they were to hit him again, he would probably die. At this moment, elderly Taoti suddenly stopped and looked at Longfei. Longfei's heart tightened as he thought in his heart, "Master, at this critical moment, you better not go back on your word." This was what Longfei was most worried about. Elderly Taoti smiled faintly and said, "Are you worried that I would go back on my words?" Longfei said, "Senior, why would you think that way? Right now the mountain is about to break apart. We can all escape." The elderly Taoti laughed and said, "This metal ball and chains trapped me. Even if I escape, I shouldn't be treated as a monster. I stopped because I had something for you to do." Longfei's heart relaxed, and he said, "Senior, please give me your instructions. I will do my best." The elderly Taoti said, "It's actually very simple. After you obtain my body and obtain my inheritance, you will become very strong. I want you to kill all the pavilion masters of the Xian Pavilion. These people are all those dregs of the past. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have become like this." Longfei said, "Even if Senior had not said it, I would have done the same. Killing an upgrading system. How can I level up without killing people?" Moreover, Longfei suppressed his belly full of fire. "I almost froze to death on Broken Sky Cliff. If he did not defeat that grand court, he would not be called Longfei." Elderly Taoti laughed and said, "All right, then empty your body. Ready." With that, the elderly Taoti's eyes became calm, and he said heavily, "Brat, remember your promise to me. If you can't do it, the Taotai tribe will not let you go. Remember this." A furious roar. Elderly Taoti heavily crashed into it. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Longfei did not care about what happened to the broken sky peak. His eyes were firmly locked on the blood groove above the Taotia's head. A hint of joy finally flashed through his eyes. Explode. In an instant, elderly Taoti's head exploded as fresh blood spurted out. It was also at this time that the runes on the metal ball on his body flashed with light, wanting to absorb the power of the Taotai blood vein. However, elderly Taoti had already thought of this. At the moment of his death, he used his strength and madly rushed out. "You want my strength, you dregs!" Buzz. The iron ball exploded. The lower half of the elderly Taoti that was revealed to the public was a skeleton. It was shocking and unbearable to look at. Looking at elderly Taoti, he slowly lowered his body and said, "Don't worry, Longfei, will definitely do what I have promised. No matter what plane your Taotai tribe is in, I will definitely do it." The corner of elderly Tauty's mouth revealed a faint smile. He closed his eyes and remained silent. At the same time, elderly Tauty's head was also shrinking rapidly, eventually turning into a dried-up corpse. A ray of fluorescent light floated onto the corpse and entered Long Fei's body. Ding! Congratulations to the player, Long Fei, for killing Tao Tai. Do you want to obtain his flesh? A Tao Tai is a beast. Thus, they could only absorb his fleshly body. Long Fei moved his body and said, "Capture." Ding! System prompt. Acquired successfully. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Tao Tai body. Long Fei opened the system to check the body's grade, and the corner of his mouth slightly hooked up. The highest body level on this plane is the profound body. Since ancient times, there has never been a person capable of breaking through to the profound body's level. However, your father, super god body, this level of body should be considered immortal in this plane, right? Back then, when the elderly Tauty fell here, the powerhouse wanted to kill him as well. No matter what power is used, it is unable to cause harm to the Tao Tai. This was also the reason they had just forged the gigantic seal iron ball and chains on the Taotia's heavily injured body, only thinking that when he died, they would be able to absorb the huge power on his body. However, all of this was obtained by Long Fei, and then the glow of the Tao Tai that fell into Long Fei's body also exploded. The mountain peak that was tens of thousands of meters high continued to fall apart. All of Xian Pavilion were shocked. Report. Grand Court, Broken Sky Peak is collapsing. Grand Court's eyes darkened. That monster. He was the Grand Court, and he knew that there was a monster locked up in the Broken Sky Peak for a long time. His power was so great that even he didn't dare to approach it. It was said by the ancestors that they had to wait until the monster died. Only when the monster died would they be able to obtain such immense power. But now, Broken Sky Peak had collapsed. Grand Court immediately asked, "Did any monsters rush out from Broken Sky Peak?" "No, I didn't see anything coming out of the Broken Sky Peak." Grand Court slightly said, "Could it be that the monster is already dead?" "Right. Isn't there one more person in Broken Sky Peak? The man who came with the Xian's girl. How is he?" "There's still someone alive, even after entering the Broken Sky Cliff. He's probably long dead." "Where's Xian Hu?" The disciple immediately said, "The Xianling Arhats has already caught up, and Elder Xian Hu has already been severely injured. The profound jade is still escaping, but he won't be able to escape for long. The only thing is that now that the Broken Sky Peak has collapsed, the various falling stones have all been surrounded by the Xianling Arhats, and they have not attacked again." Grand Court said, "Since we have already caught up, we must live. Xians must have some secret. Especially the Black Jade. You must live." "Understood." Cough, cough. Xian, who continued to cough out blood, his face pale white, as he looked at the surrounding profound jade. In his heart, he said, "Could it be that the heavens are going to destroy my Xian's bloodline? Oh God, what kind of heinous crimes did our Xians commit to punish us like this?" "Ah!" Xian Hu burst out with a roar. Xianling Arhats shouted, "Xian Hu, stop struggling. You can't escape anymore. Grand Court has decreed that as long as you don't resist, I will spare your life." The 8 Xianling Arhats surrounded Xian Hu, and right now, even if he flapped his wings, it would still be difficult for him to escape. The other transformed profound jade had also been trapped. Xian Hu's eyes were ice-cold and heartless. He slowly stood up from the ground and sneered, "Grand Court is only unwilling to give up on the super treasure. You want my Xian's super treasure? Ha ha ha. I was dreaming." All the strength in his body surged, as he shouted, "Come!" As soon as he finished, Xianhu fiercely rushed forward. A Xianling Arhat said coldly, "You're courting death." Rushing out, he punched out, his speed much faster than Xianhu's, directly striking his abdomen, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood as his body exploded outwards. He flew straight towards the broken sky peak. At this moment, the giant boulders from the broken sky peak continued to roll down. Boom, boom, rumble. Every single one of these boulders contained 1,000,000 gene of power. If one was hit by a boulder, it was possible that they would turn into mincemeat. When Xianhu was blasted to the bottom of Broken Sky Cliff, the sound of wind breaking as rocks and stones fell to the ground continuously sounded out in the sky. She slowly raised her head and looked towards the sky. It was also at this time. A figure fell from the sky. Xianhu's eyes tensed up. She wanted to jump away, but due to her severe injuries, her reaction speed became slower, her body could not hold on, and she could not dodge at all. The one who fell was naturally Long Fei. He also saw a person lying on the ground. Immediately, Long Fei immediately shouted, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Quickly get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Hearing Long Fei's voice, Xianhu's eyes shook. "It's you." Hatred filled the sky. The killing intent was dense. The reason why she and Xianyu had reached this step was because of Long Fei, because he was a real man. If this man hadn't killed Yi Xiulua in Xian City, there wouldn't have been so many things. She attributed all of this onto Long Fei. Xianhu roared out, "I will kill you." When her voice came out, Long Fei was startled. "Damn, it's you, this beautiful nun? Kill me. You want to kill me? Then Long Fei didn't control his body in the slightest. Boom. He heavily landed on the ground. However, he did not smash Xianhu's body. Instead, he supported himself with his hands on the ground, directly pressing Xianhu under him and revealing a mischievous smile. "What did you say just now? You want to kill me?" The distance between the two was only a few centimeters. Face to face, mouth to mouth. Xianhu's eyes spewed out flames of anger and said, "I want to." "What do you want?" Long Fei immediately gave her a kiss, and in a moment's time sealed Xianhu's mouth. Xianhu looked at Long Fei's bitter face and immediately became angry. "It's all your fault. It's all because of you. You villainous spirit. It's all your fault." Xianhu went crazy. The look of contempt. Men don't have any good things. It's all because of you men that this world has become like this. Men should all die. Xianhu went crazy. Seeing her act this way, Long Fei's anger rose as well, and he said, "Damn, what about you, a man? He's going to die anyway. What do you mean by peony flower? Even if you die, you can still act like a ghost. It's worth it for me to die in the arms of a beautiful nun like you, hee. Do you want us to continue?" Long Fei revealed an evil smile. Xianhu immediately closed his mouth, his eyes staring straight at Long Fei. A voice came out from his throat. "You dare?" Long Fei laughed sinisterly. "There is nothing in this world that I, Long Fei, do not dare to do." Ha ha! Xianhu's eyes flashed with anger at this time. It was unknown what was on her mind, as both she and Long Fei were about to become minced meat when that huge boulder landed right on the ground. However, she really did not want to die together with Long Fei. He felt as if he had been humiliated, but there was no other way. He was helpless. His eyes were unfocused, and he was lying on the ground, looking at the sky in despair. His mouth relaxed a little. "I hate you." Long Fei laughed. "If I can't make you love me, then letting you hate me isn't bad." Long Fei did not continue to kiss him like a scoundrel, but instead straightened his body and directly protected Xian, whose entire body beneath him. Xian, who was slightly shocked to see Long Fei do such a thing, and said, "What are you planning to do?" Long Fei laughed. "It's such a pity that such a beautiful woman like you has died. This world will lose its color because of the lack of you. So, well." Xian, whose face was filled with disdain, and said, "You think you can protect me? You think you can block the boulder? With just you?" Even if Long Fei was like this, she still looked down on him, because it was simply impossible for Long Fei to withstand the bombardment of so many huge rocks. Long Fei laughed. "Right, with just me?" As soon as he finished speaking, boom, a huge boulder landed and heavily smashed onto Long Fei's back. Long Fei's body did not move, not even a little bit, and was completely motionless. Xian, who was slightly taken aback. At this moment, boom, another huge boulder that was 1,000,000 kilograms fell down, heavily smashing onto Long Fei's body. It was the same as before, but Long Fei was completely still, firmly protecting Xian, who under his body. Their eyes met. Xian, who was stunned. Boom, boom, rumble, rumble. Huge rocks continuously fell down and superimposed over each other. Long Fei's body directly formed a mountain, pressing Long Fei completely under his body. After a long time, the world turned silent. Broken Sky Peak had completely collapsed, and the stones had all fallen to the ground. In the darkness, Xian, whose eyes glimmered with tears. Long Fei muttered, "Are you crying?" "No." Xian, who immediately denied it, and said, "I definitely won't cry for a man." Long Fei muttered with a smile, "All right." Xian, who asked, "Why?" Long Fei said, "Why what?" Xian, who asked, "Why did you save me?" Long Fei said, "For such a lofty man to take the responsibility of saving the beauty of the world as his own, the appearance of any beauty would cause me to stand up for him. Saving you is my mission." Xian, who said, "Tell me the truth." Long Fei laughed sinisterly and said, "The truth? You want to hear it?" Xian, who said, "Listen." Long Fei asked, "Are you sure?" Xian, who said, "I'm sure." Long Fei said, "I want to go to bed with you." Xian, who... Long Fei said, "The truth is sometimes a bit too straightforward, making people uncomfortable listening to it. But this is the truth. This is how real I am." Xian, who looked at Long Fei seriously, and said, "All right, if we can leave this place alive, I promise you." Long Fei laughed. "You said it yourself." Suddenly, Long Fei's body strength had begun to erupt. "This woman is not very old, but she's a top-quality item. If she were to be watched by the two of us in the future, that would truly be... ha ha ha." The two of them began to laugh sinisterly. Xian, whose peerless appearance was also incomparably lofty and cold. Her eyes were filled with ruthlessness and coldness like ice. No man would dare approach her, but she was actually a target of the Xian Pavilion's disciples' fantasies. Because of her coldness and ruthlessness, even more people wanted to conquer her. Coupled with her complexion, it made it so that countless young men were unable to sleep at night. The two of them were one of them. Looking at the pile of boulders, one of the disciples said softly, "Why don't we move the stone away?" And, again, the evil expression on his face was like that of a dirty old man. His eyes gleamed. The two of them looked at each other. Their Adam's apple rolled as they let out a heavy sound. "Gudong!" "All right. If he's still alive, he won't even be able to get close. He's dead. Even if I get smashed into meat paste by a giant rock, I should still be able to get intimate with her. Right?" Ha ha ha. Lust rippled. The two of them did not hesitate as they prepared to move the huge rock away. However, at this moment, the huge boulder pile suddenly rose up and rubble began to fall down. Both of them trembled slightly. What's going on? Not dead yet. That's impossible. I can't possibly live under such circumstances. A disciple said, living is better. Even if she is alive, she would still be severely injured. With our cultivations, can she handle it? Ha ha ha. Bro, we've struck gold. The two of them became even more excited and rushed forward as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Rumble! The mountain exploded, and the huge rock was blown apart by a powerful force. Countless huge rocks flew out. Bam! Bam! The two disciples were pressed down by a huge boulder that weighed 1,000,000 pounds, and even the feces on their butts were forced out, causing them to lose all breath in an instant. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Xian Pavilion Disciple. Do you want to ingest your level? Huh. It can also kill people. Rub. Capture. Ding. System prompt. Acquired successfully. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 3rd level of the underworld. The boulder cracked, and Long Fei soared into the sky as if he was born into the world of stone monkeys. Standing at the edge of the deep pit, Long Fei looked at Xian, who was inside, and stretched out his hand. What are you still lying there for? Can't wait to go to bed with me now. Xian, whose face flushed red, his eyes fiercely stared at Long Fei. Just a moment ago, she was truly stunned by Long Fei. She had never seen such a powerful body before, that kind of physical strength and powerful physique. It was really fascinating. The temptation of the powerhouse. Xian, who reacted, his body straightened, and he instantly flew out of the pit, his face reverting back to his cold and aloof expression as he looked around him and said, "You are..." Immediately, Xian, who looked in the direction of the illusory palace and said, "Did what you say just now count as anything?" Long Fei said, "You want to go back on your word?" Xian, who said, "No, my condition is to leave this place alive. I need to add another condition. If you do that again, I'll do whatever you want after you go to bed." Long Fei asked, "What conditions?" Xian, who said, "Take Xian Yu and leave together." Long Fei said indifferently, "We are happy to help." Xian, who said, "I'll lead the way, you follow me." Xian, who endured the pain, shooting straight to illusory palace, "Don't let anything happen to me." Xian Yu had blinded all of the pavilion masters. If he were to fall into their hands, it would definitely be a fate worse than death. Xian, who was very worried that her speed would reach its limit, he did not care whether Long Fei could keep up. For Long Fei to be able to withstand the bombardment of so many huge rocks, there shouldn't be a problem with his speed. However, she had neglected a question. Long Fei's level, holy **T. If you run so fast, how can I catch up? Long Fei looked down upon them. His cultivation could not sustain him flying for a long period of time, so he could only run wildly on the ground. Your sister. Long Fei struggled to run wildly on the ground, running and running. Long Fei got lost. The profound jade was taken to the illusory palace. The profound jade was taken to the illusory palace. All of a sudden, those pavilion masters were like wealthy wolves, tigers, and leopards. They wished that they could charge forward and tear the profound jade apart. "Give me back my eyes." "You wicked bitch, what's in that box?" "Hand over the antidote." "Faster." Every single one of them stared at Xuanyu savagely. But, however, they couldn't see the black jade. They were all blind, but their eyes looked no different from an ordinary person's. Originally, this case was prepared for Yi Shilua. He destroyed my Xians, so I want him to never see it again, but you all are just like him, with incomparable greed. If you let Long Fei go first, I won't let you guys go either. If it turns out like this, it's all because of your greed. How dare you? Grand Court let out a heavy sound, and the pressure from his body came out as if he was raging. Boom! Boom! The mysterious jade was instantly crushed to the ground, and it knelt down, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Many pavilion masters were also incomparable angry. They all knew in their hearts that they couldn't control the greed in their hearts when faced with the enticement of Super Treasuress, but they would never admit it. Xianyu continued to laugh. Did I say I have a sore spot? The Grand Xian Pavilion's 9 grand courtess. All of them have now become blind. Ha 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 ha. Yi Xiaoluo is dead. We have avenged the Xians. Now, you even made the 9 great experts of Xian Pavilion blind. Everyone is destined to remember our Xians. Ha ha. Xianyu was ready to throw caution to the wind. Xian, whose death made her lose the thought of living. It was better to die than to live alone. How preposterous! Boom, boom, boom. As several pressuring auras pressed down on her, her cultivation was already not high enough to withstand the crushing pressure. Her face was pale and in incomparable pain, but she was very calm. Sensing the weak body of the profound jade, the Grand Court immediately released the oppressive aura and said, "All of you, stop. Mystical Jade, where exactly is your Xian's super treasure?" Even now, he did not give up. Moreover, he believed even more in his belief that the Xians must have a super treasure. That box that blinded them was the best proof. What cultivation realm were they in? A ray of light caused them to become blind. One could imagine how powerful the items in this box were. When the Grand Court asked this question, the Great Hall became silent again. Xianyu said, "You're still thinking about the super treasure. Do you think I'll give it to you?" Grand Court spoke in a deep voice. "As long as you take out the divine treasure, I can promise you anything, including letting you live." Xianyu said, "Don't worry, you'll never get it." Actually, the thing inside the box was the lotus jade pendant, but he had placed it on Long Fei's body. He had originally wanted Long Fei to keep it in his custody for now. As long as he could deceive Long Fei to the Xian Pavilion, with his aunt there, Long Fei would definitely hand over the jade pendant. Grand Court lost his patience and said solemnly, "Don't challenge my tolerance limit." Xianyu said, "Originally, I wanted to give the thing to Xian Pavilion and use the power of Xian Pavilion to take revenge for my Xians. You all have destroyed the super treasure." Grand Court frowned. He suddenly took a step forward and asked, "What did you say?" Xianyu laughed. "You were the one who ordered the Xianling Arhits to send that man to Broken Sky Cliff, and you were the one who sent the super treasure to the dead end." Super treasure were different from normal spirit artifacts. He was full of spirituality, and once he acknowledged someone as his master, he would be with them for the rest of his life. He died, he was born. What kind of place was the Broken Sky Peak? There would be no place left to live if they went up there. Moreover, now that the Broken Sky Peak had collapsed, the people on top of that were even more dead. The Grand Court shook his head and said, No, it definitely isn't like that. The super treasure is such an important item. How could you possibly place it in the hands of a stranger? Speak." Grand Court suddenly grabbed the black jade by the collar and lifted her into the air, roaring, "Were you putting this thing? Hand it over to me." The profound jade was lifted into the air, and his entire body was crushed to death by the Grand Court. Xianyu was not afraid as she replied, "It has already disappeared." "Impossible." Boom. The aura on Grand Court suddenly exploded, causing the entire hall to tremble. His eyes were already blind. Although his cultivation would not be affected by much, his reaction would definitely decrease if he could not see with his eyes. And in addition to that, all of the 8 Grand Court were already blind. This way, the Xian Pavilion's power would be reduced by half. Once the divine sect attacked, the Xian Pavilion would not be able to hold them back at all. To maintain his position in the Xian Pavilion, He had to obtain Super Treasure S. His last hope was all on Xianyu. However, Xianyu's words made him unable to control the anger in his heart. "Don't say it, then die." Grand Court immediately grabbed onto Xianyu's throat with force from his 2 fingers. Cough, cough, cough. Xianyu started to cough rapidly as her eyes rolled up. Xianyu rushed out of the hall. "Stop!" Xianyu's appearance caused them to be secretly surprised in their hearts. Shouldn't he be dead already? They blocked it at the same time. Grand Court loosened his fingers and said, "Let her in." Xianyu fell down from the sky. Seeing her aunt fly into the hall, her face lit up. "Aunt Yu, are you all right?" Xianyu walked in front of Xianyu and supported her up. "I'm fine. You'll be fine too." "Humph." Grand Court snorted and said, "Are you all right? Neither of you can get away." "Xianyu, hurry up and hand over your Xian's super treasure. If you don't hand it over, don't blame us for being impolite. Now that we're all blind, are you satisfied? Xian Pavilion's power will definitely be suppressed by the divine sect. Are you that happy that Xian Pavilion has been destroyed? Get your niece to hand over her things." All of them shouted angrily. Xianyu laughed coldly and said, "You're still thinking about the super treasure at a time like this." Grand Court said, "You better hand it over or else." "Do you know how many male disciples there are in Xian Pavilion?" Xianyu's eyes darkened. "What do you want to say?" Grand Court said, "If you dare not hand it over, I will have all of the male disciples in Xian Pavilion take turns with you too. I will make you two beg for death." It was incomparably vicious. The super treasure had already driven him crazy. He couldn't care less. As long as he could get the super treasure, he would be able to do it no matter how vicious he was. Xianyu's eyes turned sinister as he said with hatred, "You want the super treasure, right? You guys can go steal it yourselves." Xianyu said heavily, "Kill them all." However, as his voice fell, Xianyu looked outside the great hall. It was empty, and there was nothing there. Xianyu was confused. This time, her heart sank. "We're finished." She had always thought that Long Fei was following behind her. But who would have thought that Long Fei did not follow him over? She wanted to push Long Fei out of the way. In any case, Long Fei could resist, so as long as she let him stall these pavilion masters, she would think of a way to escape together with Xianyu. As for Long Fei, that was none of his business. Her hatred for men had never lessened. What Grand Court had just said made her feel even more disgusted with men. However, there was no sign of Long Fei outside the hall. Her heart shivered. Liars, liars, all liars. She felt that Long Fei had lied to her. By this time, Long Fei would definitely be able to escape. If it was her, she too would have escaped. Who would be so foolish as to fight in Xian Pavilion? How could he fight? Xianyu frowned as he protected the profound jade behind him. He looked at Grand Court and said, "The super treasure was taken away by that brat. If you want to obtain the super treasure, then quickly chase after them." Grand Court asked, "Is that kid still alive?" Xianyu also exclaimed, asking, "Big Brother Long Fei is still alive?" Xianyu said, "He is still alive, and it is precisely because of him that I am able to survive. If he did not have a super treasure on him, who would be able to withstand a falling boulder weighing 1,000,000 kilograms? The level of this body is definitely caused by the super treasure." Grand Court clenched his fists tightly, revealing an excited expression. The pavilion masters around were also shocked. 1,000,000 gene boulder falling from such a high altitude, the damage it caused is incalculable. To think that he could actually withstand it with his body, he is definitely not ordinary. There must be something on him. It seems like this little slut didn't lie to us. That divine treasure really is on them. Grand Court said with a heavy voice. Xianling Arhits, listen up. Here. The two Xianling Arhits immediately walked to the entrance of the hall and clasped their fists. Grand Court said, was what Xianhu said just now true? Xianling Arhits said, it's true that the 1,000,000-kilogram boulder had fallen. If that's the case, there's no chance for him to survive. I don't know the reason why Xian, who was able to survive either. Grand Court immediately said, immediately chase them. Yes, sir. The two Xianling Arhits immediately flew out. Xianhu said, Grand Court, I'm not lying to you. The super treasure is on him. As long as you can catch him, you can obtain it. Can you let the two of us go now? Let you go. Grand Court laughed coldly and said, do you think that's possible? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have become blind. You two are so talented. Wouldn't it be a pity if I let you go? None of you should even think of leaving the Xian Pavilion. Not only that, I will not let you all die. Ha ha ha. The Grand Court suddenly laughed wildly and said, there really is a super treasure. I didn't believe it at first. A mere ethereal opening trash can actually trample on my Heaven Marshal Pavilion. Seems like this super treasure is very powerful. The elders and pavilion masters in the hall became excited. They knew that as long as they could obtain this super treasure, even if they became blind, the divine sect would not dare to offend them with this news. Ha ha ha. Grand Court laughed crazily once again, asking, where is Xianling Arhits? Ha! 8 Xianling Arhits descended from outside the great hall at the same time. Grand Court said solemnly, capture him alive for me. Remember, you have to live. The 8 Xianling Arhits shouted in unison, understood. Xianhu frowned. The power of the 8 Xianling Arhits were extraordinary. If they could match the fighting strength of 2 pavilion masters, and the 8 of them went out together, not many people in this world could withstand it. Xian Yu was also starting to worry for Long Fei. She secretly clenched her fists and prayed for Long Fei. Big brother Long Fei, you must take care of yourself. The Grand Court laughed coldly and said, don't worry, I will let you two meet later. At that time, I will let you two reminisce properly, and let her watch the two of you being humiliated. Ha ha ha. At this moment, before Xianling Arhits could fly out, someone walked into the plaza outside the hall and looked at the hall in the distance. Illusory Palace? The one who came was naturally Long Fei. Seeing the 3 big words, Illusory Palace, Long Fei let out a long breath. Having been lost for a long time, now, he had finally arrived. Holy sh*t, f*ck, I've finally arrived. That's him. That's him. It's that kid. Ha ha ha. You've fallen into a trap. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, so you barged in. Ha ha ha. Hearing that it was Long Fei, all the pavilion masters trembled, and they immediately recognized him. Xianhu's expression changed. He did not know why. There was an inexplicable feeling of gratitude. There had been such feelings before, but she had always viewed this feeling as the source of her hatred. She hated this feeling, but now she couldn't control herself. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He was so moved that he wanted to cry. Fool! Idiot! Xianhu said in her heart. Suddenly, without caring about her own safety, she rushed out of the hall and shouted, Run! Boom! With an explosive sound, the power of the Grand Court directly caused Xian, who to lie flat on the ground as he sneered sinisterly. Can he run now? It was also at this time When Long Fei saw Xian Hu lying flat on the ground, the 8 generations of his ancestors were enraged. F*CK, your grandpa. Did you do this to your father's woman? You're courting death. As soon as Long Fei finished speaking, he quickly rushed forward. However, the level of his cultivation in the Nether Passage realm was not that impressive. His level was too low, and even his flying feet lightly touched the ground. After flying a few meters, he became like a small bird that had just learned how to fly. His movements looked comical. When the pavilion masters at the entrance sensed Long Fei's aura, they all laughed. Ha ha, ha ha ha. What did he just say? Xian Hu is his woman. Ha ha ha. Kid, why don't you take a look at what you are now? Xian, who saw that Long Fei, was getting closer and closer, with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He said solemnly, "Quick, go, go, go." When Long Fei said, "My woman," a warm feeling rose in her heart. This feeling was called happiness. No matter what plane it was in, Long Fei's body would always exude an extraordinary charm. He was always able to move a woman's heart, and even an ice mountain would be melted by him. Xian, whose heart was colder than an iceberg. He viewed all the men in the world as his enemy, but now. However, she was worried for Long Fei. Grand Court sneered and said, "Brat, obediently hand over the super treasure. This is your only choice right now. If you don't hand it over," not waiting for him to finish. Long Fei immediately scolded, "I'll hand over to your 8 generations of ancestors." The muscles at the corner of Grand Court's eyes twitched, and he said solemnly, "Xianling Arhits." First cripple one of his hands. A Xianling Arhits flew out and landed in front of Long Fei. His figure was graceful, like a celestial sovereign. The aura on his body seemed to have crushed Long Fei 10,000 miles away. Grand Court said, "Remember, don't kill him." Xianling Arhits said indifferently, "As you command." With that, the Xianling Arhits disappeared. Long Fei did not stop and rushed towards the Grand Court in large strides. He was still burning with fury. They had completely ignored the Xianling Arhits. Seeing the blood at the corner of Xian Hu's mouth, Long Fei was furious. What is he doing? He didn't defend at all. His cultivation is at the underworld realm, but his reaction, he is even inferior to the lowest ranked warrior. And facing the attacks of the Xianling Arhits, he is opening his whole body wide. This is equivalent to courting death. Don't worry, he won't die. Xianling Arhits knows his limits. Ha ha ha. To them, Long Fei was just like an ant. In their eyes, Long Fei was about to be crippled and cry miserably. However, at the beginning, the messenger's body couldn't help but tremble as he replied, His body is extremely strange. Her voice was trembling. At this time, no one noticed what he had said. A messenger, disciple, simply couldn't attract any attention. In the blink of an eye, boom, with an explosive sound, the Xianling Arhits's palm turned into a blade and accurately slashed onto Long Fei's shoulder. A powerful force exploded outwards like a blade chi. Ha ha ha. As expected, he doesn't know anything about defense. Too trashy. Ha ha ha. Trash is trash. When Xianling Arhits's attack hit, everyone laughed. Only the other disciple did not laugh, but instead revealed a terrified expression. It's like this again, like this again. He could no longer speak. Brat, you've only lost an arm now. You still have a chance now. The Grand Court said proudly, not waiting for him to finish. Plop! The Xianling Arhits that was originally floating in mid-air suddenly dropped down, directly landing in front of the wastrel. Long Fei smiled coldly. Cripple my arm? Bam! With one foot, he smashed Xianling Arhitz's head to pieces. The entire audience was stunned. There was not a single sound from the huge square. Everyone was stunned. At this moment, ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Xianling Arhitz. Do you want to ingest his level? Yes, sir. Long Fei did not hesitate. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Heartless first pin. The Xianling Arhitz were all at the Heartless realm. Just now, he was considered the lowest level existence in Xianling Arhitz, but he was similarly very powerful. However, it was shattered by Long Fei's kick. After being stomped on, Long Fei did not stop. His gaze was still fixed on Grand Court, and he said solemnly, "You F***er, hit this daddy's woman, and today, even if your ancestors came out, you would still die." Long Fei continued to walk forward. They were still in shock. Just now, what happened? Why did the Xianling Arhitz suddenly fall to the ground? What the hell is going on? No one could see it clearly. Of course, Grand Court and the rest were all blind, so it was impossible to see them clearly. Only the disciple's entire body was trembling as he said, "It's like this, it's like this." The senior brother S of the Heaven Marshal Pavilion all died like this. It's like he killed himself. The corners of Grand Court's eyes twitched as he shouted, "Go!" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 Xianling Arhitz flew out and surrounded Long Fei. Grand Court ordered, "Attack!" Boom. The pressure of the 3 of them moved at the same time and directly bound Long Fei's body. However, Long Fei was completely unaware. He was not restricted at all. Body of Taudi devoured the heavens and the earth, swallowing everything. The pressure could still be absorbed. It was useless for any of this world's pressure to crush Long Fei, as it had all been swallowed by the many black holes. He couldn't withstand the pressure. The 3 Xianling Arhitz tensed up weapons. Taking out their swords, the 3 of them started moving simultaneously. The sword flowers that filled the sky tightly enveloped Long Fei. There was simply no way out. However, Long Fei did not retreat and continued walking forward. The sword moves of the 3 pierced towards his glabella, his heart, and his abdomen. The moment the 3 swords touched Long Fei's body, bam, 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 the 3 of them fell to the ground. His body was unable to control itself, and he fell heavily onto the ground. His body was unable to control itself, and he fell heavily onto the ground. It was like seeing a ghost. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open, but they didn't know what was going on at all. The strangest thing was the swords of the three people had obviously stabbed into Long Fei's body, but they had failed. There was not a single injury on his body, not even a single wound. Long Fei looked at the three of them, who were sprawled on the ground. Bam! 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 The three of them were directly trampled to death. Long Fei also broke through from the first stage of Heartless Realm to the fifth stage of Heartless Realm. Ah! That disciple screamed. His heart seemed to be unable to bear it. His body went limp, and he fell to the ground. That's it. That's it. Anything that comes in contact with him will immediately become useless. Celestial Sect. This is how the senior brother of the Heaven Marshal Pavilion died. All sorts of looks were directed at that disciple. At this time, one of the pavilion masters said with a deep voice, "I don't believe it." Boom! His body exploded as he flew out heavily and instantly landed on top of Long Fei's head. Heavenly Long Lei Pavilion. Boom! Rumble! Countless bolts of lightning appeared in the sky. Within the lightning, a dragon-like monster roared and pressed down on the entire sky. Die! The pavilion master said, heavily. Both palms came out at the same time, striking towards Long Fei's head. The power of thunder and lightning, the strength of a heavenly dragon. Fast, ferocious, ruthless. However, Long Fei continued to move forward without any hesitation. He did not even look at the pavilion master above him and completely ignored him. Boom! With an explosion, it crashed onto the top of Long Fei's head. Long Fei's body slightly sank. His body trembled slightly. The force from the top of his head directly rushed into his body. Under normal circumstances, his body would have instantly exploded. This was the strongest attack from the Heavenly Long Lei Pavilion. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to take it. However, Long Fei acted like he was an unharmed person and only trembled slightly without any other reactions. Before the extremely strong Heavenly Long Lei was able to drill into his body, Long Fei's body was devoured by the mini black holes. No damage was caused. That pavilion master who used the previous move did not touch Long Fei's body either. Are you all right? Not a single injury. Is he a ghost? The move just now was the Heavenly Long Lei Pavilion. Xian, who stared dumbstruck at Long Fei, and then asked the profound Jade in a low voice, "Is that super treasure that powerful?" Xian, you blankly shook her head. I don't know. What was that lotus jade pendant? What kind of power did he possess? Xian's had studied it for many years, but could not find anything. It was just like an ordinary jade pendant. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't find the answer to his question in the divine sect, word of this would have leaked out. Now that she saw Long Fei being so berserk, even the profound Jade was dumbfounded. Xian, who said slightly, "This might be fate." Again, the pavilion master's attack landed on empty air, and his expression was extremely ugly. No one who had been struck by his Heavenly Long Lei had ever lived, yet Long Fei acted like nothing had happened to them. This was a great humiliation to him. 120,000 points of strength burst forth. Boom, boom, boom. The air exploded. With a flip of the pavilion master's palm, the power of lightning became even more ferocious. Both of his fists struck wildly at the top of Long Fei's head. The top of Long Fei's head was like a cannon. Powerful energy exploded from the top of his head. However, not to mention injuring Long Fei, even a strand of his hair wasn't damaged. In the beginning, Long Fei had slightly trembled, but now that he was walking with the wind, he did not feel any resistance at all. Awesome to the point of being a complete mess. Ah, this old man doesn't believe it. Ah, bang, bang, bang. The crazy bombardment had lived for 70 to 80 years, but he had never been in such a sorry state before. He had truly used all of his strength, but not a single hair was damaged. Huff, huff, huff. The pavilion master gasped. His old face was completely red from exhaustion. Even though he couldn't see, he could clearly feel the aura on Long Fei's body, and there wasn't the slightest bit of change. Even his breathing was the same as it had been at the start. How preposterous! How preposterous! The pavilion master was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Finally, he suddenly dropped down and stood in front of Long Fei. Both his hands suddenly sank and heavily shouted, "Mountains toppling, seas overturning." Rumble! Space twisted. The power of this palm strike was even more ferocious and powerful. The expressions of all the pavilion masters changed slightly as they said, "Lord Yun has already used all of his trump cards. Using force at close range. How can he survive in such a situation? No one can withstand such a close distance. Even a huge mountain would be leveled to the ground. If I don't die now, I won't believe it." The heavenly Long Lei pavilion in the Lord Yun was preparing for this very move. No matter how strong the defense is, it can't be stopped. Everyone said indifferently. Indeed, the heavenly Long Lei paw technique that Lord Yun had started with was all prepared for this move. He had started with a long-ranged attack and could not hurt Long Fei at all. Long Fei would also be negligent, but he did not believe that a person's defense could do such a sudden burst of energy. However, the corner of Long Fei's mouth suddenly rose slightly. In that instant, Long Fei's body suddenly straightened. "What I want is this move of yours." His body could devour all kinds of attacking powers. However, in a long-ranged attack, he could only devour energy, but could not devour the power from Lord Yun's body. During the time at the Heaven Marshal Pavilion, just now, Long Fei had been trying again and again to find out how to use the body of Taudi. They could only rely on touching the body to absorb it, as long as they came into contact with it. Regardless of whether it was a blade or a wooden stick, they would frantically absorb the source of their power. He was waiting for the moment the Lord Yun's heart crumbled. Watching him fall, he moved both his fists as a strong force rushed forth. Long Fei did not dodge. He puffed his chest out and blocked Lord Yun's fists. Lord Yun growled, "Die!" Both fists struck out, heavily striking Long Fei's chest. This power, at this distance, he was definitely going to die. Everyone looked at Long Fei. The space between Grand Court's eyebrows tightened as his senses surged, enveloping Long Fei's entire body. The moment both palms came into contact with Long Fei laughed softly and said, "Die." Buzz. The strong force drilled into Long Fei's body and was instantly absorbed by the mini black holes. At the same time, the mini black holes started to spin, frantically absorbing the various powers from the Lord Yun's body. Boom, boom, boom. In the end, Lord Yun knelt down in front of Long Fei. He wanted to stand up, but he did not have the energy and could only pant. The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted. Looking at Grand Court, he suddenly grabbed the Lord Yun's head with both of his hands, revealing a sinister sneer. Ka! *die. At the same time, new changes have occurred to the mini black holes in Long Fei's body. Neza had recovered a little, but Long Fei still felt his heart ache when he saw Neza's flabbergasted look. "Endure it a little longer. I'll find something for you to eat once I finish here." And then, Long Fei asked heavily once again. Who else? Boom. As soon as he finished, for Xianling Arhit's S surrounded him. At the same time, the figure of the other pavilion master disappeared. Lordine, the missing pavilion master, was the Poison Pavilion's pavilion master. His sudden disappearance caused everyone to look at Long Fei and reveal a cold smile. It can be swallowed together. Where's the poison? If the Lord Yin's poison touches it, it will result in death. Even a peak profound king stage powerhouse would not be able to withstand it. Kid, just wait for your death. Xianhu loudly reminded, don't absorb anymore, his attack is poison. Without waiting for Xianhu to finish speaking, a voice rang in the air. It's already too late. Ha! The moment the first Xianling Arhats died, my poison started. You were already within my poisonous miasma, just that you did not know it yourself. Using poison, the most important thing was the wording. He had to be insidious and let others not notice him. He had no idea when he would be poisoned. Then again, vicious, no survivors. It was also because of these 2 points that Lord Yin became the pavilion master of the Xian Pavilion. It was a poison that made people ignorant of what was happening. As soon as he finished, the elders and pavilion masters of the Xian Pavilion became even more excited. Until now, Elder Yin has never failed. This kid is just waiting to die. Release the poison as soon as possible. That kid can only absorb it when his body comes into contact with it. As long as he doesn't get too close, he can only continue to absorb the poisonous fog in the air. He'll die soon. Ha ha ha. Everyone became excited. Only the Grand Court watched Long Fei carefully. His heart was incomparably excited because he was 100% sure now that Long Fei definitely had a super treasure on him. Poison? Long Fei was startled, his heart becoming tense. Is it delicious? The legend of the Tao Tai on Earth was that it ate everything. However, can you take poison? Long Fei wasn't completely confident in his heart either, but he was already inside the poison aura, and he didn't feel any signs of being poisoned at all. Perhaps this was because the Lord Yin hadn't started to harvest yet. Lord Yin sneered. You'll know later whether or not it's good to eat. Suddenly, the space between Lord Yin's brows tightened as the power in his sleeves trembled. A red light flashed from his body. Puffed, puffed, for sounds of blood spurting out. Xianling Arhit spat out a large mouthful of black blood, and at the same time, a stream of pure energy blood floated out from the black blood. You're eating it even though it's poisonous? You're eating it even though it's poisonous? Was he not afraid of death? Or had he lived for too long? Moreover, the moment Long Fei grabbed the poisonous insect, its hand had already begun to rot, and it was still stuffing itself into its mouth. Even if he wasn't crazy, he was still a retard. Lord Yin felt Long Fei's palm rotting and immediately laughed. Ha ha! Just wait for your entire body to fester and die. No one can resist the blood spirit poison. We will plant poisonous insect first, absorb its blood essence, and nurture it for a few years before it is formed. Release your blood aura again, and let it spread through the air, awakening the poisonous insect. Every single Xianling Arhits is a heartless realm, and this kind of realm is the best for the cultivation of poisonous insect. Absolute heart is the best container for poisonous insect. The Lord Yin slowly spoke. The expressions of the pavilion masters all changed. He used to think that poison wasn't anything special, but now they felt that the Lord Yin was too dangerous, and they didn't know if he had planted any poisonous insects in his body. In the future, they would have to be extremely careful when they came into contact with him. The best place to cultivate poison was in the human body, especially this kind of poisonous insect. Isn't this move too sinister? Grand Court, the lives of 4 Xianling Arhits S. Some of the pavilion masters had displeased expressions. Grand Court interrupted. As long as we can obtain the super treasure on him, no matter how many people we sacrifice, it's fine. Some people immediately shut their mouths. Lordine was even more brazen than before. As he watched Long Fei swallow the poisonous insect, the corner of his mouth also started to rot. Prepare to accept death. Lame duck before me, you can only wait to die. Seeing that Long Fei's cheeks had started to rot, many of the pavilion masters heaved a sigh of relief. There was no longer any possibility for Long Fei to live anymore. No matter how arrogant he is, as long as you don't touch your body, there's nothing you can do. Am I going to die soon? Ha ha ha. Let's see how arrogant he can be. Many people mocked. Grand Court said in disdain, "Hand over the super treasure, and I will make him spare your life. Boy, you only have half a minute. After half a minute, even if there will be an antidote, it will be useless." Lord Yin faked taking out a small bottle and said, "Hand over the super treasure, and I will let you live." Xian, who looked at Long Fei, speechless. Xian Yu directly said, "Big brother Long Fei, give them the thing, give it to them, or else you'll die." As the 4 poisonous insect ate it up, Long Fei's mouth, all the way down to his throat, as if he was on fire, began to gradually rot, and rot wherever he went. The power of these 4 poisonous insects was extremely strong. However, Long Fei did not show any fear, but instead laughed coldly and said, "Half a minute worth of life?" Lord Yin said, "There are only 20 seconds left. Quickly hand it over." Long Fei said, 20 seconds, is that enough?" Enough what? Lord Yin was startled. He did not know who Long Fei was talking to. Once a small sound rang out from within his body. He said, "Enough!" They knew it was the poisonous insect, but they still went to eat it. Was Long Fei that stupid? Of course not. Just as the 4 poisonous insect appeared, Nez's voice suddenly sounded, "Good stuff, I want to eat, I want to eat. Daddy wants to eat, give it to me to eat." Poisonous insect is coming out. Nez's mind was muddled. Long Fei said, "Can this thing be eaten?" Neza said, "Sure, but it's a big supplement for me right now. Hurry up and eat it. I want to eat it." Long Fei didn't have any hesitation as he immediately grabbed the 4 poisonous insect and put them into his mouth, throat, all the while his internal organs were rapidly rotting. Just like Lord Yin had said, his body would completely rot in less than 20 seconds. When the time came, no one would be able to save him. However, if Neza wanted to eat something, he could only absorb it using Long Fei's body felt very uncomfortable after being consumed by 4 poisonous insects. South Grand Court stared at Long Fei with hidden eyes and said solemnly, "There are still 10 seconds. Hand that thing over." "Hand it over," Lord Yin also said solemnly. "Brat, if you don't want to rot to death, hand it over to me." Long Fei's mouth still carried a faint smile and did not say a word. He completely ignored the threat of the Grand Court. It was as if he hadn't heard her. 5 seconds. "There are only 5 seconds left," Lord Yin said heavily again. At this moment, Long Fei's body started to rot all over, as if there was a ball of fire burning within his body. But Long Fei still had a smile on his face. He was just this calm. 3 seconds. "You still have a chance." 2 seconds. "Lame duck." "You're dead meat," Lord Yin spoke in a deep voice. Xian Yu shouted, "Big brother Long Fei." By the time he finished, the rot had reached his bone marrow. Just like the Xianling Arhits on the ground, all that was left was a corpse, and even the bones were black. But Long Fei did not fall. His cultivation was deep, and he had been holding out for a long time. Lord Yin was startled. What happened? Not only did Long Fei not fall, his skin and flesh were crazily healing and recovering their luster. "Hui, you've recovered. his arms the flesh of his body. Is it the antidote? There is no antidote for this type of blood spirit poison. Even if there is an antidote that has already reached the bone marrow, there is no antidote. What's going on? Lord Een felt the change in Long Fei's body. With a face full of fear, his voice trembled as he said, "No, no, impossible, absolutely impossible. No one can destroy the blood spirit poison. There is no antidote for this poison at all. Even the body of a mystical cultivator would not be able to resist this kind of lethal poison. Kid, what kind of monster are you?" The process took about 30 seconds. However, from detoxifying to recovering, Long Fei only took 10 seconds. Gulp. So comfortable. Hee. Daddy, I recovered. Who was the one who called Daddy just now? I want to avenge you. Neza was alive and kicking. He was not tired at all, but he was full of energy. You can eat poisonous insect. Long Fei asked in confusion. Neza said, "No, these 4 poisonous insect were bred using the blood essence of 4 people, so they are great supplements for me. So comfortable." Once again, he shouted in excitement. Long Fei was depressed. At this moment, Lord Een was extremely unhappy, and he was furious as he said in a heavy voice, I don't believe it." Boom. He flew into a rage. Suddenly, a crack appeared on his forehead. A bug king burst out. His body was also a container, nurturing the strongest poisonous insect. Whoosh! His body charged forward, directly rushing in front of Long Fei. "Trash, go and die!" How preposterous! Neza angrily said, "You call me Daddy Trash? Die!" As soon as he finished, once Neza's power surged, Long Fei leaped up before the Lord Een could even get close to him, and with a punch, he directly struck the Insect King's body. Boom! The Insect King was blasted into its body. The Lord Een trembled crazily. Long Fei lifted him up, and the many black holes began to quickly circulate. He was crazily devouring the profound qi in the Lord Een. He was crazily devouring the profound qi in the Lord Een. Bam! Bam! There were a few more sparks among the many black holes. Lord Een weakly laid on the ground as he looked at Long Fei with lifeless eyes. He shook his head and said, "No, F *** king shit." Boom! With a stomp on Lord Yin's head, his gaze swept across. Next! Incomparable savagery. The elders and pavilion masters of the Xian pavilion shrank back, not daring to step forward. Long Fei had never made a move before. He had just made a sudden move, and with a single punch, he killed the strongest Insect King in Lord Een. His passive defense was incomparably powerful. Taking the initiative to attack was also incomparably powerful. This kind of person was invincible. How could he be an opponent? Grand Court became even more excited. Super treasure. Too amazing. Ha ha ha. He did not show any fear. Instead, he became even more excited. The more powerful Long Fei's performance was, the more excited he became. For a Nether Passage realm martial practitioner to obtain a super treasure and become so powerful if he were to obtain it, how strong would he become? Holy Realm? The most powerhouse in this world? Ha ha! Grand Court said in a deep voice, "Brat, your power is absorbed through contact. As long as it does not come in contact with you, it will not cause any harm." Of course, all sorts of energy attacks that land on your body will be absorbed by you. Your body can be said to have surpassed the existence of the profound body. I have to say, you're almost invincible now. You can't get hurt. You can't die. Grand Court said lightly. Long Fei said, "You've researched it thoroughly. But you are wrong about one thing. I am not invincible. I am invincible." Grand Court laughed sinisterly and said, "That may not be so." Longfei said, "Not necessarily. Today, I will say this, none of you 9 Grand Court-s will be able to escape. All of you will die." This was something that he had promised elderly Towdy. Then again, whoever touched Longfei's woman would die. Grand Court's eyes turned sinister. The expressions of the other 6 pavilion masters also changed. Longfei's gaze swept across them as he repeated himself once more, "All of you must die." It was incomparably savage, incomparable arrogance. The strongest power in the world was also the 9 people who stood at the pinnacle of the world. They all had to die. How crazy was this? Too arrogant. Grand Court coldly snorted and said, "Do you think I have no way to suppress you? I suggest that you better hand over the item. I can spare your life, or I can spare theirs. If you take one more step," without waiting for Grand Court to finish, Longfei immediately took a step forward and said, "I'm going to take another step. Don't talk nonsense with me. Come at me." In other words, all of you attack together. He was so arrogant. A dignified Xian pavilion was stomped into this state by Longfei. Each and every one of them had a ball of anger burning in their hearts. Longfei had always been forcing them, and his arrogance had caused all of their auras to become abnormally hot. Grand Court, since he said so, let's attack together. Let's let this brat know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. That's right. Kill him. They couldn't bear to watch any longer. All of them were in a berserk state. But the Grand Court didn't give the order, but faintly smiled and said, "I gave you a chance. Now, you have no chance." Its 2 fingers were ferocious. He quickly formed a seal. A series of phantoms appeared between his fingers. Not long later, an explosion sounded out above Illusory Palace. Boom! The plaza suddenly caved in as sand and dust flew everywhere. It's not that there's something underground. It was the sky. An extremely strong object pressed down from the sky above the Great Xian Peak. The ground began to cave in before they even touched it. Longfei's body also sank. Even the body of Towdy were firmly stuck on the ground at this time, making it extremely difficult for them to move. Rumble! 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 Explosions continuously rang out in the sky. The surrounding people couldn't withstand the powerful energy and were directly forced to retreat. Buzz! With the sound of a bell, a powerful shock wave burst out in the sky. At the same time, rumble! A powerful ripple covered the sky, and thick clouds started to churn nonstop. A colossal monster appeared in the sky. Super battleship. UFO. Holy SH *T. Longfei looked at the gigantic black object in shock. It was a huge disc-shaped object with various carvings and flaming patterns on it. It looked just like an alien battleship, but when Longfei saw the patterns clearly on the metal cake, his eyes suddenly darkened. No! He immediately thought about the iron ball binding elderly Towdy's body. It was also this kind of material. Buzz! The sky exploded once again, and like a giant bell ringing, the sound spread for 1,000 kilometers. Boom! A stream of power poured down and enveloped Longfei like a beam of light. Longfei's body was immediately bound and unable to move. Grand Court laughed proudly. "You have super treasure, and Xian Pavilion also has one. However, Xian Pavilion super treasure are too big and aren't suitable for cultivation. They can only be used for defense." That year, the ancestor of the Xian Pavilion used this to subdue outer space demons. Your survival from Broken Sky Cliff must be related to that demon, right? The Grand Court guessed. A perfectly fine Broken Sky Peak would crack just like that, it had to be related to that demon, adding Long Fei's fleshly body, and that strong devouring power. There definitely had to be a connection. Seeing Long Fei not saying a word, the Grand Court continued. To be able to suppress that outer space demons over 3,000 years ago, I can also suppress you today. You dog, I'll give you one last chance, hand over the item, or else you will be suppressed like that outer space demons in the metal ball. Rumble! The huge metal cake moved, and another force came crashing down. Long Fei's body was tightly locked. He stared at the flame patterns on the metal pancake and started rotating his eyes. It did not look like a super treasure, but a very special type of formation. From the looks of it, it was more like an alien battleship. Neza, can you leave the body? Long Fei couldn't move, so he could only rely on Neza. Neza said, "This kind of power can't bind me, but Daddy, when my power enters your body, it can't break the shackles either." Long Fei said, "As long as you can leave the body, you can go to the top of this big metal pancake, and there must be an entrance. After you go in, don't worry about it so much." Long Fei came from Earth. The movie had seen all sorts of alien battleships that humans could imagine. If it was really an alien battleship, then as long as it damaged the system, it would lose all of its power. "Understood," Neza replied. "Father, I'm not here. You have to be careful," Long Fei replied. "I will." To be able to crush even the ancestors of a vicious beast like the Taudai, what exactly is this battleship? Can you blow it up? Many of the pavilion masters shuddered inwardly as fear rose in their hearts towards the Grand Court. The reason Grand Court was not only because of his strong cultivation, but also because of his methods. Blood trickled down the corner of Long Fei's mouth as he said gloomily, "So what about your territory? Kill me now if you have the ability. If you kill me, you won't be able to obtain that thing in your entire life." Ha ha ha. Long Fei laughed out wildly. However, he was incomparably worried in his heart. The 2 punches just now had caused his health point to be reduced to 1/3. He couldn't help but urge in his heart, "Neza, how is it?" "I just came in," said Neza. "It's very strange here. It's full of things I've never seen before. It's like a huge maze. Daddy, I didn't see the lines you were talking about." Neza was also very anxious. Long Fei said, "I don't have time now." "Don't worry about that. Just destroy the interior first." One more punch from Grand Court, and he would be dead. As long as the binding force on his body was removed, the power of the Grand Court would not be able to do anything to Long Fei. The most important part was the restriction. Neza immediately said, "Your son understands." Immediately, Neza began to wildly destroy it. Grand Court took a step forward and landed heavily in front of Long Fei. He said in a gloomy voice, "Kid, if you die, the super treasure will disappear. Don't you want to think about this plane? Also, as long as you hand it over, I'll let you live for sure. I'll give those 2 women to you even if you like them." Hand it over. Almost through gritted teeth, you could see it. The Grand Court was about to lose his patience. His eyes had gone blind. The Xianling Arhats had died out. The 2 pavilion masters had died. And the disciples of the Heaven Marshal Pavilion had all died out. In this era, where the strong preyed on the weak, the news of the Xian Pavilion being heavily injured had been spread out. At that time, there would be no Xian Pavilion left in this world. As long as they got their hands on the super treasure, the Xian Pavilion would not be afraid of any forces. Long Fei looked at Grand Court and laughed faintly. "You think I'm a 3-year-old child? Do you think that I will believe what you say?" Grand Court asked, "What do I have to do to make you believe me?" Long Fei said, "Very simple. Let the 2 of them go first." The corners of Grand Court's eyes sank. "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking?" Boom. His figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Xian Yu. He grabbed her long hair, and her figure flashed back and forth as he fiercely grabbed onto the profound jade and said, "I'll give you one last chance. If I don't take it out now, she'll die." The flames on Grand Court's body burned. Veins popped out on his forehead. Xian Yu replied heavily, "You're—" The profound jade was in pain, but she endured it and looked towards Long Fei. "Big brother Long Fei, don't worry about me. I don't want to live anyway." Bam! With a tug, the profound jade fell heavily onto the ground. Staring at Long Fei, he said, "Hand it over." Xian Yu's body bounced up from the ground as she spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. Long Fei's gaze darkened. His fists clenched tightly. The beam of light he was suppressing started to waver. Grand Court felt the anger from Long Fei's body and said, "Hand over the thing, and you can all live. Last chance." While speaking, a long sword appeared in Grand Court's hands. The long sword was pointing at the black jade beneath his feet. His eyes was filled with killing intent. If Long Fei still did not hand over the thing, he would really kill him. Long Fei's heart tensed up and said, "Neza?" Neza crazily attacked. They wantonly destroyed. After hearing Long Fei's shouts, he destroyed it even more quickly. Rumble! 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 With a loud bang, the large metal cake above his head continued to emit explosive sounds. The beam of light swayed, and its power was reduced. The black hole in Long Fei's body started to slowly spin again. A brown beast scale appeared all over Long Fei's body, and his eyes were like the cruel eyes of a Taotai. Boom! Boom! With a roar, scales of a Taotai appeared on Long Fei's face one after another. The fist covered the beast scales. He clenched his fist. Long Fei's tensed-up body suddenly shot out. A fist flew towards Grand Court's face. Walala! The void shattered. A black hole appeared under his fist, and Grand Court reacted quickly. His sword moved and directly shot towards Long Fei's fist, and with a light tap on his body, he quickly retreated. Boom! The long sword shattered into powder. Long Fei's eyes turned sinister. Move! A black mist appeared behind him, and he charged forward, punching out with his fist. Grand Court did not dare to touch Long Fei's fist, and his body retreated again. Boom! Long Fei chased again. Boom! The two's figures kept changing, so it was impossible to see them clearly. When the Grand Court retreated, Long Fei gave chase. Long Fei's cultivation was only at the first stage of the profound king stage, but Grand Court's cultivation was actually at the peak realm. Even with the body of Taoti's strength and speed, one's realm was always everything. No matter how strong the support was, it wasn't as important as the level. This was also the reason why Long Fei was so close to catching up to the Grand Court. "Humph! You think you can kill me? You can't even catch up to me. What are you going to use to kill me?" As long as they didn't come into contact with Long Fei's body, as long as they didn't fight head-on with him, he would be in an invincible position. Moreover, if this continued, Long Fei would definitely be exhausted to death. Even if he didn't die from exhaustion, his profound strength would be completely used up, and he would still be the one to win. But suddenly, Long Fei stopped. The two of them stood in midair. The Grand Court disdainfully said, "Lame duck, why aren't you chasing after me?" Long Fei said, "You're right, I can't catch up to you." Grand Court laughed. "You have self-awareness now." Long Fei said, "The reason why I can't catch up to you is because your realm is higher than mine." Grand Court said, "You sure are enlightened." Long Fei said, "So, I'll go and level up first. Upgrade." What the heck is this? Grand Court did not understand the meaning of level up, but suddenly he saw that Long Fei's gaze was fixated on a pavilion master. His expression darkened, and immediately shouted out, "Pavilion Master Wang, disperse. However, too late. Boom. Long Fei dove down, falling like a meteor. His speed could not catch up to the Grand Court at the peak of the profound King realm, but the speed of the other pavilion masters was inferior to his. Boom. With an explosive sound, Long Fei grabbed Pavilion Master Wang's arms with both of his hands. Pavilion Master Wang's eyes darkened as he stared at Long Fei with fear in his eyes. He did not even have time to react. And at this moment, the small whirlpool within Long Fei's pubes started to spin, frantically absorbing the energy. In just a few seconds, Pavilion Master Wang weakly kneeled in front of Long Fei as Long Fei smashed his palm down. Ding! Congratulations to the player, Long Fei, for killing Pavilion Master Wang. Capture! Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently, you are at the third stage of the profound King stage, killing and leveling up. As long as he could hunt someone higher than him, he would immediately be able to obtain the other party's cultivation. This was the most abnormal game system. Third level of the profound King stage. Long Fei slightly raised his eyes. A smile hung on his lips like a god of death. Still not enough. Boom. His body moved, once again turning into a ball of black mist, and landed in front of another pavilion master. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Die! Rumble! Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up, currently at the fourth stage of the profound King stage. Continue." He was just like a crazy madman. Long Fei did not stop at all. "High level. If I wait a few minutes, your level will become mine." From the original first stage of the profound King stage, in just 2 short minutes, Long Fei's cultivation had already reached the 6th stage of the profound King stage. The difference in power had been directly narrowed from the 8th rank to the 3rd rank. This speed, it was no longer fast. It was like flying. Long Fei had never experienced this kind of leveling speed before. It was extremely satisfying. This killing and upgrading system is simply tailor-made for me. I have to say, the system's creator is a bit of a brainer. Ha ha ha. Long Fei was excited. He had never liked the system as much as he liked it now. In the past, things like striking system, primordial system, and more or less systems all dropped very powerful items, but it's not even comparable to this system. In the past, leveling up had required a huge accumulation of experience points, and leveling up required more than 1 billion experience or even several billion experience. It was simply too difficult. How could he be unhappy? From the beginning, Long Fei killed people beyond his cultivation level, but at most he only dropped some things. Now, it didn't matter if he didn't drop anything. What he wanted was a level. He could refine and create holy artifact himself. Divine pills were the same. As long as he didn't have the trouble of leveling, none of this was a big problem. Moreover, as long as he killed the Emperor Xian, he would be able to obtain the cultivation of the latter, and the entire gods' tribe would be trampled under his feet. In the past, he had to deal with the entire gods' tribe. Right now, he only needed to deal with Emperor Xian and take care of him. That would be equivalent to taking care of the entire gods' tribe. Boom! The last old pavilion master fell. Long Fei leveled up once again. 7th level of the profound King stage. There was only a difference of 2 levels between his and the Grand Court's rank. Level 2 was no longer a problem for Long Fei, who had a body of Taudi. Moreover, not only his level increase, Long Fei's pubes had also started to turn into a blazing flame. It was just like the anger value filled up during a game. It had reached a point where it could be released. Long Fei's footsteps moved. He floated in midair, stared at the Grand Court, and said solemnly, "You're the only one left." Grand Court's body trembled slightly. This is the super treasure you obtained. In such a short period of time, he had directly broken through to the 7th stage of the profound king stage. This was even more mythical than the myth. Long Fei smirked and said, "That's right, do you want it?" Grand Court's eyes turned sinister as his body slightly shrank. And then his body suddenly shot backward. Right now, his cultivation had no advantages. If he did not run, he would only be killed by Long Fei. Furthermore, the big discus was out of control. He could no longer control it. There was only one choice. Flee. He's still running. Long Fei's eyes turned cold, and he sneered, "Do you think you can escape now?" Boom. The black mist flashed. Long Fei instantly appeared in front of Grand Court and laughed sinisterly. "I just said that I will level up first. Now that I have leveled up, will you still be able to escape?" As soon as he finished, Long Fei punched towards the Grand Court. Grand Court's eyes darkened. His arms crossed in front of his chest. The power of a peak profound king exploded out crazily. Buzz. Wung. Wung. His fist landed, and the force behind it exploded like a firework. Grand Court was heavily pushed back, but he was not injured. When he felt the power of Long Fei's fist, his mind also shivered. There's no power to devour. Long Fei also felt that it was strange. The body of Taudi S were constantly devouring. As long as he came into contact with it, he could devour it. But it was one thing if the punch just now did not injure Grand Court. But why did the Taotia's devouring power not come out? Broken? Long Fei was puzzled. His understanding of body of Taudi S was not comprehensive enough. Right now, he only knew that he could constantly devour them, never stopping. But now he didn't want to swallow it. Could it be that the body of Taudi's devouring can only be triggered passively? You can't trigger it on your own accord. Long Fei thought to himself, "That's not right. When I killed those pavilion masters earlier, I also took the initiative to attack. Why is that?" Grand Court didn't know the reason either, but the moment he was struck by Long Fei's fist, he thought that he would be engulfed by Long Fei, the same as the other pavilion masters. But no, Grand Court shouted in excitement. Did it fail? At this moment, Grand Court hardened his heart. If it really fails, then this is an opportunity. Wealth comes from danger. Escape couldn't solve the problem. If he could seize this tiny chance, then everything would be his. Boom. Grand Court shook his fists. Buzz, buzz. A golden palm print appeared. Grand Court said sinisterly, "Golden fist." Ah. The power of the peak profound king level erupted crazily, and the fist imprints became larger and larger, locking onto Long Fei. Both of his fists struck forward, this time not attacking from afar, but attacking. The power of ranged attacks was not strong enough. Long Fei did not understand why the body of Taudi did not devour him, nor did he have the time to figure this out. Seeing the Grand Court rushing towards him, he moved his fists and clashed with him. His fists showed brown beast scales. Rumble, rumble, rumble. 4 fists collided, causing the sky to groan in pain. Countless cracks appeared in the air. Long Fei burst out. Grand Court was the same. This move was done in a tie. No one could benefit from it. But towards the Grand Court, he had already gained the upper hand because Long Fei's devouring power was no longer here. This punch was just a test. He didn't use his full strength. Your devouring power is already gone, right? Ha ha ha. Grand Court laughed excitedly and said, "Without devouring this place, you are nothing in front of me. You're just a piece of trash. You scolded my father again. You're courting death." Neza said, heavily, just as he was about to rush up. Long Fei shouted, "Leave this guy to me." Neza angrily stood to the side. Long Fei said, Even if I don't use any power, I can still kill you. Buzz. His body sank, and his pupils became the pupils of a Tautai. The incomparably thick beast scales appeared on his body, and the aura of the Tautya's power spread out. Grand Court sneered and said, "Even if your physical body is strong enough to surpass the profound body, your strength, it's still not enough." His voice sank. Grand Court's body exploded outwards. It was like a golden lightning bolt. His entire body had turned into a golden body. The same. His physical body was also at the peak of the profound body, a golden body. His defense was extremely strong. The most important point was that his power was exceptionally thick and was able to completely fuse the power of his physical body into his own cultivation realm. For more punches intersected. Buzz. Golden light shot in all directions. Long Fei's body sank slightly, and he retreated a few hundred meters. Grand Court had only retreated a dozen steps. He had the upper hand now. Ha ha ha. Originally, not all super treasure were as powerful as you think. They all have their weakness. After devouring so many people, have you now revealed your weakness? Ha ha ha. Kid, it's my turn to take your life. The expression in the Grand Court's eyes turned sinister, not giving Long Fei a chance to catch his breath. His footsteps became like thunder, quickly rushing over. The golden-colored fist continued to bombard Long Fei crazily. Was to not give Long Fei any chance. Long Fei's heart was locked tightly as he unceasingly struck back, while constantly pondering, why did the swallowing power of the Tautai suddenly disappear? No reason. The body of Tauti's strongest power was devouring. The rest weren't very strong. Facing the Grand Court's powerful attacks, Long Fei could only barely take on them. It was also because of the strong defense of his body that he was able to withstand a few of the punches. But he did not like the feeling of being crushed by others. Where is the problem? Long Fei looked carefully. Finally, seeing that the mini black holes was no longer active, it continued to burn nonstop. Is that the problem? The mini black holes had always been revolving and devouring energy, but now it was not spinning or devouring energy. Did this mean that the energy was being filled up? Is that what you mean? Long Fei turned sinister and ignored the situation. The idea entered the mini black holes and ordered, "Explode." Rumble. An explosive sound came from Long Fei's body. An extremely strong energy shot out, directly sending the golden body Grand Court flying. Buzz. At this moment, Long Fei's entire body ignited with flames. Anger. The effect was exactly the same as the explosion of anger value within the game. His entire body was on fire. The flames enveloped Long Fei. Clenching his fists, Long Fei felt an inexhaustible power. If there's devour, then there's explosion. I understand. The mini black holes is continuously devouring and filling its power. Now that the filling is complete, it's time to explode. Understanding all of this, Long Fei's mouth curved up slightly as he stared at the Grand Court that was knocked flying and said, "Your sister, now." "It's my turn." Boom. His body disappeared. Flames burned the void. He instantly appeared in front of Grand Court. This speed was so fast that Grand Court could not even react, and his fist smashed into Grand Court's abdomen. Grand Court glared and spat out a mouthful of blood. His abdomen seemed to have been pierced through as a ball of flame rushed into his body and continued burning crazily. Wow. Blood sprayed out wildly. His body was also blasted into the air. Long Fei was already waiting in midair for another punch to explode out. Grand Court's body caved in again as he plummeted down. As he fell, Long Fei's fist exploded wildly. "Hit my woman? Scolding your father? Mocking me? Die." The eruption of the Tao Tai's wrath caused every one of Long Fei's fists to bring about extreme explosive injuries. His entire body suddenly seemed to have become like a super saiyan. This pattern of anger was too crazy. A carefree feeling let Long Fei experience an unprecedented feeling of satisfaction. When Grand Court landed, his body was already destroyed. System beep. Ding. 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 Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Grand Court. Do you wish to absorb its realm? Yes, sir. Of course. Long Fei moved his body, killing a person to level up. If there was a higher level, he would naturally want to take it. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently at the 9th stage of the profound King stage. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining Flame Essence. The system beep ended. Long Fei slightly froze for a bit and couldn't help but scold in his heart, F***K. You got something like that? Can you be a bit more magnanimous? It's hard for Killing System to drop something, but don't be like that. No one is easy to mess with. Long Fei said bitterly. A Killing and Upgrading System's explosive rate could not be described as low, but rather extremely rare. They had fought their way from the Heaven Marshal Pavilion all the way to here. Xianling R hits did not explode. The 8 Grand Court S did not explode. Right now, even Xian Pavilion's strongest boss Grand Court only dropped 1 item. How low would the drop rate be? It was so low that it made one's hair stand on end. In the past, being so berserk and cool, and also with the system's various special rewards, now that everything was fine, without even a strand of hair exploding out, Long Fei had the urge to die. System, you have already become a killing system. Why hasn't your drop rate increased too? Long Fei felt depressed in his heart. Maybe this is the system's designer balancing the system? In the past, when the system killed players to gain experience, leveling up would be a little difficult, but it had a high drop rate. Normally, powerful bosses would drop dead. Now that he had killed many people to level up, leveling up was much easier, and the drop rate was lower. Since you gave it to me, you should let me be lawless? That's great. If I were the designer, I would have definitely designed the system to be abnormal. A level 99 blade, with equipment everywhere. This is great. Long Fei complained a few times. Then he looked at the only thing that dropped in Grand Court, the Flame Essence Origin. A fiery red stone. It was similar to a fiery-colored crystal, so he couldn't tell what its actual purpose was. It was just that. The moment he held it in his hand, Long Fei felt a very strong flame power, as if it was the power of a flame ancestor, which could make any flame become stronger. Fire element. Long Fei looked at the series of question marks that appeared on the system interface. His heart was also shaken. I wonder, after the Underworld fire absorbs, will it break through the Emperor of Underworld and enter an even higher realm? Underworld fire, the power of the universal realm's ancient inheritance. It needed to absorb all sorts of powerful flame energy in order to achieve a breakthrough. Back in the God's Twilight Instance dungeon, Underworld fire had absorbed the magma of hell and made a breakthrough into the realm of Emperor of Underworld. However, from that time onwards, Underworld fire would have no use in absorbing ordinary fire energy, and would not be able to break through the Emperor of Underworld again. If they wanted the Underworld fire to break through, they would have to find higher-level flame elements. Right now, the flame essence in Long Fei's hand looked like a tiny crystal, but it contained an endless amount of fire elements. The Killing and Upgrading System's explosive rate was extremely high, but either he didn't explode, but if he did, then it was definitely a good item. However, Long Fei had not completely understood the killing system's attribute just yet. Xianhu stood up and looked at the nearby Long Fei. She saw the golden body of the Grand Court being smashed into meat paste by Long Fei, and her heart secretly trembled. However, at this time, what she was thinking was not how strong Long Fei was. What exactly was the super treasure on his body? They were thinking about the promise Long Fei had made to save her, and she had also saved the profound jade. Go to bed with Long Fei, and whatever position Long Fei wanted her to assume, she would do it. Thinking of these, Xianhu's face started to burn. She wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. Xian, you didn't know what kind of agreement Xian, who, and Long Fei had. Seeing that Long Fei had survived, Xianyu immediately ran forward and said happily, "Master is indeed powerful." While they were talking, she threw herself into Long Fei's embrace. At this moment, Nez's voice sounded, "Grandma, Grandma, I want to eat Grandma." Long Fei's head was spinning, afraid that Neza would throw himself into Xianyu's arms and do something out of the ordinary. He thought to himself, "I haven't even enjoyed myself yet, so don't do anything rash. From the moment I appeared, you knew that I was not your master. On the way, you were the only one who was afraid that I would abandon you." Xianyu's face turned red, like a child who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and asked, "How do you know?" Long Fei said, "Do you know that you have a bad habit of talking in your sleep?" Xianyu was surprised. She giggled and said, "Hee hee. What did you hear?" At this moment, Xianhu turned around quietly, intending to leave without a trace. However, Long Fei suddenly shouted out and said, "Who is that? Want to leave? It's fine to leave, but do you want me to fulfill your promise before you leave?" Xianhu's cheeks flushed red. She was originally a mature woman and was one of those who had never opened seals before. He didn't know whether to leave or to stay, so he felt extremely awkward. Xianyu doubtfully asked, "Are you talking to my aunt? What did my aunt promise?" Long Fei revealed an evil smile and said, "Your aunt has promised many things, for example." Xianhu's face became even redder. His body suddenly turned and stared straight at Long Fei, his fists tightened, as though he was saying the words out loud. "This old lady will fight you to the death. However, the more she is like this, the more Long Fei will say, and say. She said that, as long as I save her, she will sleep with me." Ah! Xianhu screamed out, his entire body rushing towards Long Fei. "I'm going to kill you." Xianyu was taken aback. However, Xianhu rushed in front of Long Fei, and before he had even punched out, Long Fei had already grabbed him in one hand. He laughed sinisterly. "I am now a peak realm of the profound king, and you want to kill me? What are you going to use to kill me?" "Huh." With a frivolous tone, he stared at Xian, who with blazing eyes. Xian, who struggled fiercely. Her body was already injured, and Long Fei's cultivation was much higher than hers. She could not move at all and could only be hugged tightly by Long Fei. Xian, whose eyes seemed to spew fire as he said, "Let go of me." Long Fei said, "No, you are my woman now. You promised to go to bed with me, and you promised—" Xian, who screamed even louder, "Ah, ah, 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 ah." She was embarrassed to the point that her face was flushed red. She wanted to use her voice to cover Long Fei's voice to prevent the people around her from hearing her. Seeing that she was screaming nonstop, Long Fei's body suddenly sunk, his mouth fiercely slamming downwards. Xian, who thought about what happened under the stone, and her mouth shut. However, she was thinking too much. Long Fei laughed sinisterly, stuck his mouth close to her ear, and gently exhaled, and said, "Recover your injuries, and then you will be able to properly serve me on the bed." Ha ha! Long Fei was like a demon now. Long Fei was like a demon now. He would never be lenient towards his prey, and he would never let it go. A beautiful nun like Xian, who was cold and proud, high up in the sky, her eyes filled with ruthlessness, and that made it even more important to not let her off the hook so easily. Xian, who had no other choice. Her body was trembling. She wanted to struggle. She wanted to resist, but right now she was not a match for Long Fei. He could only do as he pleased. She hated him dearly in her heart. Seeing the evil smile on Long Fei's face, she wished to kill Long Fei. Long Fei possessed his body and released Xian, who then said evilly, "Don't even think about escaping. You won't be able to escape from my palms." Xian, whose teeth chattered with hatred as he trembled all over. Xian Yu supported Xian Hu and said, "Aunt, have you fallen in love with him as well?" Xian Yu looked at Long Fei with an expression of infatuation and said, "Big brother Long Fei is really handsome." Xian Hu said, "Sooner or later, I will kill him." Long Fei didn't hear him at all. At this moment, on the other side of the plaza, Lei Gang was being chased by hundreds of Xian Pavilion disciples. He was not afraid in the slightest, nor was he interested in fighting. Boom! The power of 8 combined forces erupted, and the vigorous energy of the supreme force knocked away the 100 disciples. His body fell down heavily. Boom! The ground cracked, and the powerful force behind the explosion caused even the air to tremble. Long Fei muttered, "What a strong inner force." In Xian City, if it wasn't for Neza's help, Long Fei really wouldn't have been able to defend against one of Lei Gang's attacks. Originally, he wanted to kill Lei Gang and get his level, but he never thought that Lei Gang would actually recognize him as his master. Adding on to that, Lei Gang did not care about the fact that the Xian Pavilion was rushing towards him to save him. It made Long Fei feel quite touched. Long Fei said lightly, "Lei Gang, I'm fine." When Lei Gang saw Long Fei and then saw the complete mess outside of Illusory Palace, his eyes shook and he said, "Master, this place." Long Fei replied, "It's fine." Xian Yu added, "Big brother Long Fei is really amazing since he managed to solve everything that has happened. Done. Alone." Lei Gang looked at the surrounding corpses, of either Xianling, Arhats, or Pavilion Masters, had been dealt with by Long Fei alone. How strong was this? One had to know that the Xian Pavilion was one of the strongest forces in the world. He was crushed just like that. Even Lei Gang found it a little hard to believe. At this time, the disciples of the Xian Pavilion rushed up to the plaza from all around. Looking at the corpses in the plaza, it was as if they had gone crazy. It was as if the legend in their hearts had been shattered. Long Fei ignored him. He was no more than a passerby to the world. Long Fei said faintly, "Let's go." An elder said in a heavy tone, "Hold on." All the disciples were startled. Everyone turned to look at Long Fei, fury in their eyes. Long Fei coldly snorted, "What? You all didn't die enough. You all want to die a little more, right?" The elder said, "The law of the jungle is the law of survival in this world. You destroyed the Xian Pavilion, causing the disciples of the Xian Pavilion to lose their confidence. You can't just leave like this." Long Fei said, "If I want to go, can you stop me?" Lei Gang's aura gushed out and protected him by his side. The elder said, "I beg you to stay behind as the Grand Court. Although we all hate you, only you are able to protect our lives. Otherwise, in less than a month, our Xian Pavilion will inevitably become a pile of loose sand. All of them will die. Please stay." Huh. Long Fei was slightly taken aback. Many disciples were also stunned. However, a few seconds later, some disciples kneeled down. Plop, plop. After that, they kneeled onto the ground. Their eyes were filled with hatred, but they all understood one thing. Once Long Fei left, there would be people fighting their way to Xian Pavilion in less than half a month. They only had one fate left to them: death. The fact that Long Fei could monopolize the 9 Grand Court meant that his cultivation had reached a terrifying level. Any power would fear him and would not dare to offend him. Adding on the fact that Long Fei had the super treasure on him, it would be even more terrifying. The powerhouse was revered, the survival of the fittest. In the world of martial artists, there was nothing more important than to live. As for enmity, compared to being alive, what was that worth? If he couldn't even preserve his life, how could he avenge himself? Xian Hu regained his composure and said, "He's right, you left them alive, and once you leave, the Xian Pavilion will definitely fall." Long Fei looked at the people around him, then looked at Xian Hu again, and said lightly, "It's just right. I need a place to rest for a while, and you also need a place to recuperate from your injuries. We need a very spacious and soft bed." "Ha ha! All right. I'm not leaving for now. You may disperse. In addition, anyone who wishes to seek revenge on me must do so without hesitation." Long Fei said lightly, "The Xian Pavilion has a wealth of information to investigate the affairs of this world. The 7-flame flower he was here for. Only by finding the 7-flame flower would he be able to leave this plane and return to the Hall of Eternal Life. He did not want to stay here for his entire life. This was not his world, nor was it his battlefield. His world in the universal realm was the same on the battlefield." The crowd dispersed. Long Fei looked at Xian Hu and said, "You are more familiar with this place. Take the 2 of them and recuperate from your injuries." Xian Hu's face turned cold. Long Fei reminded him, "Don't even think about escaping. I'm the king of the Xian Pavilion now, and every single move of yours is under my control." The 3 of them left. Long Fei walked into the illusory palace, called over a few elders, and asked, "Does the Xian Pavilion have anything called a 7-flame flower?" Several elders shook their heads. "Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Is this a spirit grass or a divine treasure?" Long Fei was secretly depressed in his heart. Xian Pavilion was one of the strongest forces in the world, yet no one actually knew what 7-flame flower were. That was difficult. Long Fei didn't know if it was a spirit grass or a divine treasure. "Who?" Long Fei exhaled and said, "Send people to investigate and gather some information about the 7-flame flower in various places. Also, take out the ancient books of the Xian Pavilion regarding spirit grass and divine treasures. I want to read them." The few elders immediately went to do so. Long Fei thought of Xian Hu and said, "If Xian Hu wants to leave, there's no need to stop him. Just notify me immediately." "Yes, sir." "Go." After a few days, Long Fei flipped through a few ancient books in a illusory palace, but didn't find any information related to 7-flame flower. There was no useful information coming from outside. Long Fei would only be able to go back after he found the 7-flame flower. If he couldn't find it, Long Fei would never return. F***CK. Don't tell me the hall master is messing with me. Long Fei muttered. At this moment, an elder rushed into the hall and said, "Grand Court, something bad happened." Long Fei was feeling agitated at the moment. That elder rushed in, making him even more unhappy. With a heavy voice, he said, "What is it?" The elder's expression changed, and he immediately kneeled on the ground. "Lo, Grand Court, yes, someone is fighting his way to Xian Pavilion." Then he immediately knocked his head on the ground, not daring to look at Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes flashed and said coldly, "It's only been a few days." "There are people causing trouble, at our doorstep? No matter how fast the news spread, it wouldn't reach such a level. The only possibility was that there were people in the Xian Pavilion who were unconvinced with Long Fei and had colluded with other enemies to use their hands to get rid of Long Fei. Even if they could not get rid of him, they could let him have a taste of their pain and give him a test. After all, many people did not see what happened outside the illusory palace that day, and many people did not believe that Long Fei could win against the 9 Grand Court S alone. Lead the way, Long Fei replied heavily. When Laozi is truly annoyed, are you looking for death? The elder immediately strode out. At the foot of the mountain, 100 black-robed experts surrounded the mountain gate. Tell your Grand Court to come out. I heard that your Xian Pavilion has changed to another Grand Court. Call him out for us to meet him. A disciple said, How can a Grand Court be seen just because you say so? Grand Court has so much to do. I don't have time to see you all. Go back there and don't look for trouble. The disciples of the Xian Pavilion were quite arrogant. If this was in the past, no one would have dared to make a ruckus at the entrance of the Xian Pavilion mountain. A black-clothed man sneered and said, You people still think you are a former disciple of the Xian Pavilion? Do you think that Xian Pavilion is still the Xian Pavilion of the past? I'll give you 3 seconds. If your Grand Court still doesn't come out, then I won't be polite. As soon as he finished, the 100 black-clothed disciples let out a heavy cry. The man in the lead sneered. 3, 2, 1. You're not coming out, right? You cowardly turtle, I'll beat you out. Immediately, he leaped into the mountain gate and coldly shouted, Kill! The disciples of the Xian Pavilion also went up to stop them. To behave atrociously in the Xian Pavilion, let's see how many of your lives you have. He was going to meet them head on. At this moment, a voice echoed from the distance. Don't stop them. Let them in. All of the Xian Pavilion disciples were stunned. One of the elders immediately said, Grand Court, they are Dark Hall's dark warriors. They are a group of fierce people, and Xian Pavilion is a sacred place. How can we let them step in and sully us? Long Fei looked at the elder and said, Since that's the case, then send them all out. Air. That elder's body slightly shrank. The leading black-clothed man laughed out loud. The new Grand Court is just different. He's very sensible and sensible. It's really my first time coming to this Xian Pavilion's sacred grounds. Brothers, let's all take a good look at this holy land to see what it looks like. Ha! Many people rushed forward, destroying everything in their path. On both sides of the road, all sorts of rare spirit grass, trees, and stairs were destroyed. Many disciples of the Xian Pavilion were furious. However, what they hated now was not the Dark Hall's dark warriors, but the inactive Grand Court, Long Fei. Why were they so afraid of people from the Dark Hall? Xian Pavilion had never been afraid before. It had always been the Dark Hall that were afraid of Xian Pavilion, and the Xian Pavilion had never been afraid of anyone from the Dark Hall before. But now, he was letting the dark warriors of the Dark Hall set foot in the sacred land. This was a humiliation to the Xian Pavilion. The leading man walked in front of Long Fei and said, You are Grand Court. Disdain was written all over his face. Long Fei nodded and said, That's right. Just as he finished, Leader spat on Long Fei's shoes fiercely and laughed disdainfully. From today onwards, I will take over Xian Pavilion, scram to the side. He pointed his finger at Long Fei's chest heavily, and with a ferocious expression he said, Do you understand? The dark warrior behind him said, I told you to scram. Didn't you hear? Long Fei smiled faintly and said, You are the Dark Hall's dark warriors. Leader asked, Are you scared? Now that the Xian Pavilion is being taken over by our Dark Hall, get the hell out of here. Long Fei maintained his calm demeanor and said, "Can you tell me if it's the letter that the elder from Xian Pavilion reported to you? As long as you say it, I will make your death more comfortable." It was very calm. No killing intent, no anger. Leader paused for a few seconds and could not help but burst out laughing. "Ha ha! Let me die more comfortably? Wow, what big words you have there. I'm so scared." The dark warriors also laughed in unison. "Ha ha ha." Suddenly, a black mist burst out from Leader's fist. His eyes were filled with anger as he roared, "You dog, kneel down!" Boom! A single punch contained the power of rage. Suddenly bursting out, it was exceptionally fierce. Furthermore, it was a sudden attack. There was no time to dodge at such a distance. However, Long Fei didn't even try to dodge. He just stood there motionlessly, allowing his fist to strike his body. Bam! His strength exploded. Long Fei's body did not move at all. The leader's eyes shook. Long Fei said coldly and said, "You've punched, and now it's my turn, right?" The man's pupils suddenly contracted. A palm appeared in the reflection of his eyes. Pa! A loud explosion resounded. The man was slapped to the ground, and with a pung sound, he fell onto the ground. He was unable to move and directly lost consciousness. Everyone quieted down. They all looked at Long Fei as if he was a monster. Long Fei said coldly, "You are all Dark Hall's dark warriors?" The faces of those people changed. At the same time, they rushed towards Long Fei. The 100 of them moved, surrounding Long Fei. Long Fei lightly hooked his finger and said, "Let's all go together." Boom! Rumble! Boom! All of them pounced towards Long Fei. Long Fei's aura moved, releasing the body of Taoti's power. The 100 black warriors were instantly sucked in by Long Fei's chi. Rumble! In just a few seconds, all 100 black warriors knelt down on the ground. Long Fei swept the place with his cold eyes and said, "Even dregs like you dare to be arrogant in front of me?" Bam! 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 With each stomp, they were all stomped to smithereens. When they were in illusory palace, they did not personally witness it. Now that they saw it, this kind of power was completely beyond their imagination. 100 black warriors were trampled to pieces. The last man woke up, looking at the corpses around him. His body trembled fiercely, trembling violently. He looked at Long Fei and felt that what he had offended was not a human, but a death god. Long Fei said indifferently, "Can you say it now?" Leader looked up and said, "Yes, yes, it's him." He pointed at a Xian Pavilion elder. It was the Xian Pavilion elder who spoke just now. His face was pale as he stepped forward and hacked the man to death with a palm. Long Fei's gaze turned cold as he stared at the elder and said, "I hate people who take advantage of others. Tell me, how do you want to die?" That elder was so scared that he immediately kneeled on the ground and said, "Grand Court, don't kill me. I was wrong. I was wrong. Wrong. Too late." Long Fei walked forward. That elder was extremely frightened and almost peed his pants in fright. His lips trembled as he said, "I know where the 7-flame flower is." 7-flame flower. 7-flame flower? Long Fei's expression tensed up. He took a step forward and asked, "Where?" The elder trembled in fear as he said, "Grand Court, you promised not to kill me. I will talk about it later." Long Fei replied, "All right, I agree." The 7-flame flower was exceptionally important to him. Without it, Long Fei would not be able to return. The elder said, "He's in the divine sect." Huh. Long Fei's eyes narrowed. He stared at the elder and asked, "Are you sure?" The elder immediately replied, "I am sure that an old friend of the divine sect revealed this to me a few years ago when he was drunk. The current sect master, Yi Wuqian, found it in a secret world. He also said that every single petal of the seven-flame flower had the effect of reviving the dead. Everything I say is true. Long Fei listened silently. This fellow's words didn't have much credibility. A picky person could do anything to protect his own life. But to the Long Fei who did not have a clue, he would not let go of any information. There was a moment of silence. Long Fei looked at the elder and said, "You can go," as if he had received an amnesty. The elder stood up and ran out. However, before he had even taken 3 steps, Long Fei struck out with his palm. Boom! With the strength of a peak profound king level, he had killed that elder with a single palm strike. Everyone was shocked and looked at him with astonished eyes. He had clearly promised not to kill him, yet he suddenly made a move. Furthermore, it was a sneak attack. Wasn't this too untrustworthy? Long Fei did not explain, because he did not need to explain. He was the grand court of the Xian Pavilion. Dogs couldn't stop themselves from eating feces. People like them, who were able to collude with people from the Dark Hall once, were able to collude with people from the Dark Hall twice. They absolutely could not let them live. Long Fei returned to the illusory palace and gathered a few clan elders. Did you all hear what that elder said just now? How credible is it? Does the divine sect really have 7-flame flower? An elder's heart was filled with fear. His voice trembled as he replied, reporting to the Grand Court, "The divine sect is the strongest power. They collect all kinds of divine treasures. Any kind of divine treasure is possible." Long Fei disdainfully said, "What you say is nonsense." That person was so scared that he instantly kneeled on the ground, not even daring to breathe loudly. Their fear of Long Fei now exceeded everything else. Long Fei's methods to deal with the Dark Hall's dark warrior were too strong. They could not even understand what he meant. Not just these elders. The disciples of the Xian Pavilion were all boiling with excitement. Long Fei was too strong. Long Fei looked at the other elder and asked, "Tell me." That elder said, "This I do not know, but 7-flame flower are so important to the Grand Court, I cannot let go of any news. Send someone to check on the divine sect first. What do you think?" Long Fei asked, "How long will it take?" The elder said, "The longest is 3 years, and the shortest is a year. There should be results." Long Fei's eyes turned cold as he said, "I can't wait that long. I'll make a trip myself." Long Fei did not want to waste too much time here. He had to return to the universal realm as soon as possible. Western regions would never let this matter rest. There would definitely be big movements to chase and kill those who escaped from the Western regions. He had to get back as soon as possible. An elder immediately replied, "Absolutely not. Grand Court, you are now the king of Xian Pavilion. Your words and actions represent the entire Xian Pavilion. The divine sect is too dangerous, and Yi Wuqian has even stepped into the holy realm. If anything happens to you, Xian Pavilion won't be able to protect you." The other elders also followed suit. Long Fei completely ignored him. An elder said, "Isn't Lei Gang from the divine sect in the Xian Pavilion? We can ask him about the 7-flame flower first." These past few days, Lei Gang had been recuperating in his closed-door cultivation, so he did not know about Long Fei searching for the 7-flame flower. Long Fei said, "I forgot about him." "All right. You may disperse." Finished. Long Fei took a step forward and immediately flew towards the direction of the recovery peak. Other than Lei Gang, there was another very important matter that he had forgotten. It's been a few days. His injuries should be more or less healed now, right? Long Fei laughed sinisterly. Healing Peak. As the name implied, It was the place where wounds were recuperated. When Xian Hu and the other two came here, the rest of the people who were recuperating completely retreated. In the huge sanatorium, only Lei Gang, Xian Hu, and Xian Yu were left. Xian Hu was also considered obedient and did not quietly slip away. Actually, she also knew in her heart that if she couldn't leave, the entire Xian Pavilion would be Long Fei's. Where could she escape to? Even if she wanted to escape, Xian Yu wouldn't let her go. Adding Lei Gang, it would be even more impossible to escape. I'm here. How's your recovery going? Long Fei shouted as he walked into the sanatorium. Xian Hu's body trembled slightly, his eyes cold and heartless. Clenching his fists tightly, he hid a small dagger inside his sleeves. Xian Yu hopped out and said, "Big brother Long Fei." Lei Gang also walked out and said respectfully, "Master." Long Fei looked at the two of them and asked, "Have you recovered?" Xian Yu nodded and said, "There is a healing hot spring here. Its effect is very good. You just need to soak in it a few times." Hot springs. Long Fei was evil again. Lei Gang also said, "Xian Pavilion's healing mountain is well-deserved. My old bones have also gotten 9 levels." Long Fei asked, "What about the other one?" Xian Hu walked out from another place. He was dressed in a Taoist robe, and his hair was tied up into a bun as he held a horsetail whisk in his hand. His eyes were still as cold, heartless, and arrogant as usual, with a height of 8 meters. It really was extremely cold. Long Fei looked at her and laughed wickedly. "It seems like my injuries have recovered. Perfect. I'll be staying here tonight." Xian Hu's expression immediately sunk, and his body under the Taoist robe trembled slightly. Long Fei said, "Girl, prepare some clothes for me. I want to go soak in the hot spring." Xian Yu immediately said, "Yes." Xian Hu also wanted to leave, but Long Fei suddenly said, "You don't have to go. What you promised me should be done, right? Take a bath with me first, then we'll take our time tonight." Ha ha ha. An evil laugh like that of an evil demon king. Xian Hu's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. It was as if it wanted to kill Long Fei immediately. Long Fei did not mind at all. Kill him? There was probably no one in this world who could do this. The hot spring in the sanatorium is at the edge of the cliff at the back of the mountain. The milky white hot spring water gently churned and flowed, giving off a white mist, giving people an incomparably comfortable feeling. The entire rear mountain was composed of Long Fei and Xian Hu. Long Fei walked to Xian Hu's side and said with an indifferent tone, "Undress me." Xian Hu's cheeks flushed red. Looking at Long Fei's back, she bit her teeth, and a sharp dagger in her sleeve stabbed forward. It pierced into Long Fei's back. Clang! The dagger shattered. Long Fei scratched his head and said, "Can you undress now?" Ah. Xian Hu let out a roar as he struck out with his palm. It struck onto Long Fei's back. It was still like scratching an itch without much strength, but Long Fei softly sighed and said, "Sigh. I'm very angry now. Time and time again and again, this was not good." Long Fei suddenly turned around, grabbing Xian Hu and throwing him to the ground. Walala! He threw it into the hot spring. Long Fei leaped, and before she could even crawl out of the hot spring, Long Fei immediately pressed down on her body, pushing her down once again into the water. And then Long Fei began to become extremely overbearing. The more cold and proud he was, the more domineering the method would be. "You are aloof. You are heartless. These are all trash in front of lousy." Hot Springs War. It was a complete mess. All sorts of storms, all sorts of cycles. After a long time, Long Fei leaned on the rock, soaked his body in the hot spring, and said indifferently, "It would be great if I could have a cigarette at this time." Looking at Xian, who was sprawled on the other side, with the corner of his eyes red, Long Fei said, "I told you to stop struggling. It hurts, right?" Xian, whose eyes were still filled with hatred. If there was a chance, she would still kill Long Fei. But now, let alone a chance, she didn't even have a bit of strength left. He was completely exhausted. Long Fei said, "Don't worry, from today onwards, you are my Long Fei's woman. If anyone dares to bully you, I will make their entire family pay." "All right. Blistering a bit longer will help the wound heal." Long Fei walked out from the hot spring. After putting on his clothes, he glanced at the silent Xian, and laughed sinisterly. He strode out. Walking out of Source's courtyard, Xian Yu immediately went to greet him. "Is my aunt all right?" Long Fei said, "Go take a look. Don't think I didn't know you were peeping." Xian Yu blushed and said, I don't have any." Long Fei said, "No, little girl." Xian Yu's face was completely red as she swiftly ran out. Her heart rippled with spring as she inwardly wondered when she would be in Long Fei's embrace. Wherever, no matter what. Long Fei always had a charisma that women found hard to resist. Any woman who came into contact with him would be attracted by his unique aura. Mad them. Was Xian Hu cold? Cold. Abnormally high and cold. Did she have any way to avoid Long Fei? Yes, a lot. If he were to force her with his death, Long Fei would absolutely not touch her. He would not do so for his entire life, because there was no meaning to it. However, Xian Hu did not. She was struggling in her heart, attracted by Long Fei's powerful strength. She was grateful to Long Fei for killing people for her and saving her, but she hated men. It was as if the two of them were fighting in her heart, and there was no way to tell who would win. However, in the end, she gave in. She cried not because of anything else, but because it was really too painful. Her heart was filled with the indescribable feeling of having just tasted a forbidden fruit. What Long Fei said made her heart warm. The profound jade looked into the distance at Xian, who with a hint of small happiness in her eyes. The profound jade jumped into the hot spring, leaned on Xian Hu, and said, "Aunt, being a woman must feel really good. Hee hee." Xian Hu stared at her. "Little girl, what are you thinking?" Xian Yu said, "I want to be a woman too." Seven-flame flower? Never heard of it. But once Yi Wuqian brought a few elders into a mysterious secret world, and was even heavily injured. After returning, he went into closed-door cultivation for an entire year before he recovered. After Yi Wuqian came out of seclusion, he immediately broke through the holy realm, and was also the only godlike powerhouse in the world. "Master, why don't I go back to the divine sect and ask around?" Lei Gang said, seriously. Long Fei shook his head. "You are no longer a member of the divine sect, and when you return, even the divine sect will not let you off." "I plan to go to the divine sect." Lei Gang's eyes shook and said, "Master, it's true that Yi Shilua is not very powerful, but his brother Yi Wuqian is completely different. If you kill Yi Shilua, the entire divine sect will definitely not let you off. You can't go." Yi Shilua was the vice sect master of the divine sect. His own older brother, Yi Wuqian, was even the master of the divine sect, the strongest person in this plane. Long Fei went to the divine sect. Would Yi Wuqian let him go? Moreover, was the reason why Yi Shilua killed the Xianzes and searched for super treasure secretly permitted by Yi Wuqian? Maybe this super treasure was what Yi Wuqian wanted? If Long Fei went, wouldn't he be walking into a trap? Long Fei said, "I must find the seven-flame flower. I might have to leave this world if I find the 7-flame flower. Long Fei said indifferently. Lei Gang looked at Long Fei, and the expression in his eyes tightened. He knew that the universe existed in countless dimensions, and that this plane would only be a drop in the ocean in the universe. Even the powerhouse S were breaking through the void, stepping into an even higher realm. He wanted to find a stronger martial Tao true soul, looking for eternal life. It was not strange that Long Fei wanted to leave, but it was a bit sudden. Lei Gang said, "Since Master wants to go, I will bring you there. I know the way." At this time, Xianyu came out from nowhere and said, "I want to go as well. If Yi Wuqian wants to destroy my Xians, then I want to take revenge too." Xianyu stood at the side with an ice-cold expression. However, his eyes were no longer as cold as they were before. "Didn't you say that no one would dare to bully your woman? Now, I want you to avenge my Xian's people." Long Fei looked at each and every one of them and said, "All right, then let's go together." If a 7-flame flower was found in the divine sect, it would be activated. At least, I can say goodbye at that time. Long Fei was still a little reluctant in his heart, especially these two beauties. Neza stretched his back and said, "Daddy, neither of them is worthy for you. At most, they will be your personal maidservants. They are not qualified to be your wives, nor are they qualified to be my mother." Long Fei laughed and said, "Brat, your standards are quite high. Then what kind of woman is qualified to be your mother?" Neza said without any hesitation, "9 Heavens Holy Maiden." Long Fei was startled and said, "The 9 Heavens Holy Maiden? What kind of woman is that?" Neza said, "Daddy, I'll tell you when you meet me. You won't understand, even if I tell you now. Anyway, I can only think of the 9 Heavens Holy Maiden if there's anyone in this world that's worthy of you." Who was the 9 Heavens Holy Maiden? What plane is she in? What was her innate talent? In this world, there was no one who was worthy of him. There was only one who loved him the most. To Long Fei, there was no such thing as being worthy or unworthy. Long Fei laughed, treating Neza like a child, and did not put him in his heart. The divine sect was built on the summit of the Heavenly God mountain range. The divine sect was built on the summit of the Heavenly God mountain range, at the closest place to the sky in the Heavenly God mountain range. It was impossible to see the end of it at a glance from high up in the clouds. Powerhouse. Half of the powerhouse in the continent came from the divine sect. The various powerhouse rushed back to the main hall of the divine sect. They were all powerhouse of the profound king realm, and quite a few were peak realm of the profound king realm. These people were all super powerhouse that couldn't be hidden from others, and they were hiding somewhere to cultivate in seclusion. Very rarely did it appear in front of the world, but this time, each and every one of them had come out of seclusion and gathered in the main hall of the divine sect. There was only one thing that could get them out of seclusion, and that was that the divine sect was under threat. According to the scouts, Xian Pavilion's new pavilion master is about to arrive. He dared to come to the divine sect after killing vice sect leader Yi. We must not let him leave here alive. It is said that the Xian Pavilion is looking for 7-flame flower everywhere. Is there such a spirit grass in this world? He's looking for something to search for our divine sect's territory. I think he's here to throw away his life. Rumor has it that this new pavilion master is exceptionally strong and has merged with the Xian's super treasure. In a short 1 day's time, he broke through from the nether passage realm to the profound king's peak realm. Ha ha ha. You actually believe that? Every realm is the breakthrough of a martial artist's perception and the breakthrough of the body. If he were to break through to the profound king realm in a day, why doesn't he say that he will change himself? Regardless if it's true or not, to be able to kill the 9 Xian Pavilioness, he must be very strong. What are you afraid of? If he comes, this daddy will be the first to let him kneel down and call his ancestors. With us here, not to mention a mere pavilion master of the Xian Pavilion, even if the entire Xian Pavilion invades, what can they do? Make sure he never comes back. You're right, Xian Pavilion is nothing. Our divine sect's forces completely crushed him hundreds of years ago. If not for their Xian Pavilion, having some kind of supreme array, would they dare to be impudent in front of us? Inside the main hall of the divine sect, all the old monsters were extremely arrogant, looking down on Xian Pavilion. To these old freaks, the divine sect was just an indestructible Xian Pavilion. To them, destroying them was just a matter of words. This was also the truth. The divine sect was already the #1 power in this world. A short while later, a disciple said with a voice transmission, "Sect Master has arrived." Instantly, the main hall immediately quieted down. They were filled with respect towards Yi Wuqian. It was not only because he was the sect master of the divine sect, but also because he was the continent's most powerful powerhouse, the only person who had entered the holy realm. The respect these old monsters gave him was mostly due to the latter. Yi Wuqian walked out from the side with a piece of black cloth on his sleeve. He was still reminiscing about his little brother's death, and deeply lamented Yi Shiluo's death. If the distance wasn't too far, he would have rushed over long ago. The corner of his mouth revealed a pleased look that no one could see. With a single order, all of the old monsters had come out of seclusion, which was enough to prove his prestige. Yi Wuqian coughed lightly and slowly said, "You all should know what it is that have gathered all the elders here. I received a huge threat from the newly appointed pavilion master of the Xian Pavilion, who is also the murderer of the vice sect master, and is about to come to the divine sect. There must be something extraordinary about this new pavilion master for him to be able to kill the 9 grand courtess of the Xian Pavilion. There is a saying, if the good does not come, the good will not come." The reason he gathered all of his elders was to discuss the countermeasures. It was said that this person was young, but he had fused with a super treasure and had the power of devouring. As long as his body came into contact with the beast, he could instantly absorb its essence and surpass the Xian Yuan. The body, an existence which has reached the divine body level. "Elders, what countermeasures do you have?" An elder took a step forward and said, "I only want to say one word, kill." As soon as he finished, all the elders in the hall shouted in unison, "Kill!" The sound of battle shook the skies. The entire great hall was filled with rumbling sounds, and it was shaking inwardly. An elder said, "He killed the vice sect leader. If we don't take revenge for this, how will we face our divine sect? Forget about him killing the 9 experts of Xian Pavilion. Even if he has 3 heads and 6 arms, he will still take revenge. Revenge! Revenge!" Everyone shouted in unison once again. The divine sect was high and mighty. If even the vice sect master was killed, how could they not avenge it? Yi Wuqian said, "You are right. If this enmity is not avenged, where would the face of the divine sect be? I had originally wanted to wait a little longer, but since he has come to my doorstep, I have to leave his life behind." An elder said, "Sovereign, could it be that he came alone because of some other matter?" Rumor has it that he came to the divine sect to ask about the 7 flame floweress. Does the sect master know about them? Yi Wuqian did not reveal any expression. His eyes only shrank slightly as he said lightly, "The 7 flame flower never appeared in this world." Another clan elder immediately said, He is here to find fault. What seven flame flower? This old man has studied spirit grass pills all his life, but has never heard of such a thing. Yi Wuqian said, Elderling is the #1 alchemy master. He has never heard of it. Who else has? Without waiting for the elder to continue asking, Yi Wuqian said, Since all the elders have no objections, then I will give the order. Pixen, listen up. An elder walked out and said heavily, Divine Pixen, here. Yi Wuqian said, This person's cultivation is unpredictable, so do not get near him. Your Pixen has set up a strange array, and regardless of whether it is useful or not, it will still be a wound if you harm a single one of his hair. Understood. The old man quickly retreated. Wu's Peak, listen up. Divine Spirit Peak, listen up. His strongest power would be used against Long Fei. The divine sect had never done this to anyone before. However, this time was different. Yi Wuqian wanted to use the strongest cannon to attack the weakest mosquito. No matter where he hid, he would be killed. Kid, just you wait. The crowd dispersed. A few elders stayed behind. Among them was the spirit king of the Powder Peak. Yi Wuqian looked at them and muttered, Follow me. The seat moved. A secret room appeared in the great hall. Yi Wuqian took the lead to enter the room, and the 3 elders hurriedly followed. He passed through the dark passage and arrived before a stone door. A stream of aura from Yi Wuqian's body surged out and activated the stone door, which slowly opened. At this moment, golden light shot out in all directions, and he could not even open his eyes. Even if Yi Wuqian was Holy Realm at that moment, his eyes could not help but avoid the light and did not dare to look straight. In the middle of the secret room, one flower. It couldn't be described with words. It should be described with the word tree. There was a gigantic lava tree filled with flowing lava. On top of the lava tree grew 7 golden flowers, and each flower only had 1 petal. What was flowing on the petal was not a blazing fire, but a kind of pure power, pure yang qi that could reverse fate and revive the dead. Each petal represented a type of pure yang body. The 7 petals combined into one. The pure yang body was invulnerable to all yin. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.